After the trials, the tribulations, the racing in the third round of the ISOWC World Championship Grand Prix Series earlier on today, here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live, we welcome you to the second round of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series powered by iRaceForLife.org. Today we're running at Sebring International Raceway. It's a track that started life as an airport for the USAF and has become one of the meccas of American motorsport. It measures 3.7 miles in length. It has 17 corners and 2 different types of racing surface. Yes, it's got concrete and also asphalt as well. Today, drivers will be doing their best to try and get themselves to the top step of the podium over 42 laps of racing. And I tell you what, there are plenty of drivers who have the opportunity to get themselves to ISOWC Victory Lane. Last round at Homestead Miami Speedway, it was Joshua Chin who came from the rear of the field to the front to take victory. Who can do it here today? Qualifying is underway right now, and already the cars are circulating on the racetrack. ISOWC rules of racing state that right now it is even numbered cars who have 10 minutes to get themselves the fastest lap possible, and then you'll have yourself the odd numbered cars do the same in this second 10 minutes of qualifying. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Will Vincent along with Scott Widgers here on RaceSpotTV for the second round of the ISOWC IndyCar Series. And Scott, Sebring International Raceway, it's tough, it's fast, it's flowing. You rely on aerodynamic grip and mechanical grip, and these guys have got to do everything in their power to keep it together on a very technical racetrack.
There's a reason why Sebring our sports car race is one of the best in the world, because it is such a fantastic and technical track. Very bumpy, very technical and twisty. It does have some fast sections on it, but mainly a lot of 90-degree corners and a lot of very complicated sections to try and manoeuvre. Especially, it's pretty tough, of course, in one of the sports car prototypes. But in IndyCar, it's going to be even more difficult. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get a fantastic race today, and hopefully, the racing is going to be close and tight with plenty of overtaking.
Track conditions right now, it is hot. It is 87 degrees Fahrenheit, an easterly wind of just 3 miles an hour and 30% relative humidity. Right now in qualifying, Michael Dinkel is leading the way with a qualifying time of 1 minute 43.420. However, Matt Cook is about a second back right now in that second position. Andres Werner in third, Martin Miller in fourth, and Randall Shenworth rounds out your top 5. There is about 1.5 minutes left of qualifying for the first group, and then the second group will let it rip. 15 cars have already set themselves a qualifying time, and we have still got another 17 cars looking to go out in group number 2. Now, Scott, let's talk about this track in a little bit more detail, because you've got those 2 very different racing surfaces. You've got the asphalt, which is for the majority of the track, but you also have the concrete as well. And that concrete is really slippery for these drivers. Yes, it's hot today, and that will offer a little bit more grip. However, the transition from one to the other often catches drivers out.
I think also we have to talk about the bumpiness of the track as well. So if you combine the switch of different surfaces, provided also the fact that some of the cracks in the concrete and the asphalt have obviously been tarred over and covered up to make sure that it's as smooth a racetrack as possible without any chance of any breakage. It's going to be pretty tough for these guys to try and manoeuvre, especially in corners like Sunset Bend. You come down the Ormond Straight, you're probably going down there at some 180, 190 miles an hour, maybe even approaching 200. You then head into Sunset Bend, which kind of it turns in towards to a peak and then opens out once again, but it's constantly bumpy the whole radius of the corner, so it's very easy for the cars to step out of line if they're not too careful with the line they take or how much throttle they give it. So, but on the whole, of course, the asphalt offering more grip, of course, it will mean, of course, that some of the more tighter corners, then drivers can take advantage of the extra grip advantage on the rear. But obviously, on those concrete sections, we'll have to be careful not to have too much of a heavy right foot. Otherwise, that thing can go around as easy as anything.
Andres Werner moving himself up into second place provisionally on the grid. Michael Dinkel went very wide there out of turn number 1. He is on the final lap like he can do, but he is very sideways there through turn number 4. I don't think this is a lap like, no, he's not. He is actually going to pull that car to the side of the racetrack, and he will be done for his part of qualifying. The checkered flag is out for the first of the 2 groups. So anyone who's on a lap They are able to complete it, and now here come the odd-numbered cars. Michael Dinkle, however, right now is 7 tenths of a second faster than anyone else in the field. Just astonishingly quick in that number 10 car.
So obviously it's a massive psychological advantage. He's probably destroyed everyone else psychologically by thinking, by going that fast, it certainly gives the other cars now going out a huge benchmark to try and achieve, but also the other guys out there who haven't been able to make it, a huge kind of psychological decrease, because of course they realise they've tried their best effort and then see someone who's the only man in the 140, and that must in some cases must be a bit soul destroying, because they've put all their hard work into making the setup, to getting used to the Sebring circuit, and to finding someone just goes out there and just destroys your time. I can't imagine what that's like, but of course these guys will of course try and endeavour to fight for places and fight to get up the order in the race. So mates, and as I've said many times, qualifying and practice is one thing, but the race is most certainly another, because of course you do have to try and fight your way through the field, and as it's motorsport, anything can happen, because there is always that element of unpredictability that is there in every single motor race.
Tim Doyle, the driver of the number 11 Foyt Wines machine, is on the racetrack, as is Miguel Angel Martinez, Nigel Moneth, Michael Armstrong, Tim Miller, Michael DeJean, Nell McBride, Robert Grosser, Chad Peterson, Eric Davis, Brandon Trainer, Mike Owen, Andrew Tarrant, Connor Cross, Terry Matinton, and Timo Inisomi, all doing laps on the racetrack right now. And for the second group of drivers, is it an advantage or a disadvantage to go, Scott? Because yes, they now know what to achieve, but at the same time, they've got the pressure to now actually do that time, compared to the first group, when really all they're racing is themselves.
I think the smart drivers don't really look at the times, they just go basically what they feel is a quick lap, of course. Of course, now there's always some drivers who don't want to know their times at all, and they just drive and just see exactly what their end result is, and they go by feel of the car and what the setup's like, how it feels on the circuit, over the bumps, on the entrance, the middle of the apex, and the corners on the exit as well. So some drivers, it is all about the times, but sometimes it's all about being comfortable in the car. So I mean, it probably might be a bit of a split between some of the drivers. Some will be worrying, look at that 143 and thinking if they haven't managed to time somewhere around that, then they could be struggling somewhere down near the midfield. Some of the quick guys certainly will be using it as an incentive to go quicker, but I think for the most part these guys will purely just be going out there just to see exactly how fast they can go, and of course wherever they end up is of course something they'll have to just deal with going towards the race session.
So Andrew Tant bring his car onto pit road. He's not going to do that first lap. However, we've also got a couple of cars right now who are on laps, and we'll keep our eye out on Tim Doyle in that number 11 Foyt Wines machine car. He was only 27th in practice. He's looking to go a lot faster than that this time around in qualifying. You also have one guy who really needs to keep your eye on is Chad Peterson. He is really good in that Broker and Aero car, so we'll see how he goes over the course of this run. And Timo Inisomi as well. Keep an eye out on that number 3 car, Scott, because he was pretty good in practice. 9th, I think he's got what it takes to really get himself into the top 5 in practice, in qualifying even.
Well, he was in practice times, he was 1.7 seconds off the fastest time set by, ironically, Michael Dinkle. So, of course, he's certainly got a little bit of work to go, but, of course, never discount anyone purely because of practice times. As I said, practice can mean a whole different thing. Someone could be quick in practice, but then obviously off the pace in qualifying, and it could be a different story in the race further still. So, I mean, obviously, Timo Inisomi could possibly have been sandbagging a little bit. He could have been mostly focusing on long run pace or on setups, when you just don't know unless you talk to the driver and talk to the team. So team is now on a lap right now, so hopefully he might be able to get himself high up the grid possibly for the race. But his pace certainly looks good, top 10 in practice, so let's see where he slots himself in qualifying.
So then, as it stands right now, you had Brandon Traino go up into the 4th position on his first flying lap. You had Michel Dejean go up into P8 and Missouri up into P number 9. Tim Miller, he's got himself into the 16th position. Nigel Martinez up into 14th. They are the drivers who are on the second group of qualifying. They are trying to get themselves as far up the field as they possibly can. Thankfully with this track, Scott, it is very wide, so you can get yourself a little bit of clear traffic. However, a toe down the back straightaway can be useful, can actually gain you about 4 tenths of a second depending on how your car is set up for qualifying.
Yeah, of course, that is the split the split they have to make, the decision, the compromise in terms of whether they go for how much mechanical and how much aero grip they go, and the trade-off between the two of them. Of course, less aero grip, of course, means that through the twisty sections, of course, they're going to be struggling for grip. They're going to be struggling to get the nose of the car in, either on the front if they're lacking front downforce, if they're lacking rear, then the car is not obviously just not going to get the power down and be stable on the rear. Of course, if they go with the more mechanical grip option, on the aero grip option, it means of course they'll be slower on the straights, but of course it means they'll have much more on the twisty sections. And this is a circuit where you have to find a balance between the two. I think it's someone who finds the perfect balance definitely will do, but gearing might come into it as well. Of course, someone who possibly goes for a longer final gear might possibly benefit in the turbo slipstream, but of course it all depends on how the traffic works, both in qualifying and in the race, and also if you plan to be stuck behind other cars when fighting through the field. So it's all down to personal preference on where drivers go for the setup, but of course there has to be a compromise exactly which way you go in terms of either mechanical or aero grip, or a balance between the two.
Qualifying is brought to you by iRaceForLife.org. iRaceForLife.org, presenting partner of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series. Through the partnership of ISOWC and iRaceForLife.org, $5 going to the winner's charity of choice for each and every round of the 2014 season. Also brought to you in part by iRacing.com. If you head over to iRacing.com right now, you can start your iRacing journey and become a sim racer from as little as $5 for your first month's membership, with 50% off 3 months, 1 year, and 2-year memberships. Also brought to you in part by And Wanted Designs, and of course, in part by The Winning Days Show. It is every Friday, 4 PM Eastern. It is live and exclusive on Glacier TV. The most fun you can have with your pants on. The Winning Days Show. Glacier TV, every Friday, 4 PM Eastern. Chad Peterson moves himself up into P2 in qualifying, but is still 7 tenths of a second behind Mikhail Dinkel. And Peterson right now, he has got a little bit of a draft down the back stretch as he tries to do himself another lap. But it does look as though he's actually trying to get himself a little bit of distance between the car ahead of him right now, Scott. We're going to ride on board with Peterson for this next lap, and he's actually behind Tim Doyle. Going to get himself a good run out of this corner, leading himself onto that front straightaway. And then it's all about getting that momentum down for this first sector. It starts now into turn number 1. You see a marker on your right hand side, and then you just dive into the corner. You've got to try and find a balance. Hit your apex, run it wide, but not too wide. Kick up a little bit of dust. Then you come down into the trickiest section of the racetrack. Turns 2, 3, and 4. 2, left-hander, then a right for 3, then a left-hander again for turn 4. Settle the car down nicely. Now you're flat on the gas all the way through turn 5. And Peterson there caught a little bit too much of that sawtooth curb on the inside of turn number 4. And that is going to cost him all the way for the rest of this lap. You see lap traffic ahead of him. Tim Doyle, and also, Tim Doyle going very sideways there. That's really going to back everyone up. And Peterson ends his lap, and that is the thing with open qualifying, Scott. Sometimes it just doesn't go to plan, and for Peterson, he won't get back around in time to do another lap.
Yeah, that is just luck of the draw. I mean, you can't always predict exactly when you can go out, and you can't always control in the cars in front and how they're going to react. Of course, you just have to try and do the best you can with whatever you're given on the track. Of course, you can do the best you can by trying to back off and give yourself track time. But in many cases, of course, Chad just got really unlucky with the fact that there's 2 cars in front. They were possibly either on out laps, in laps, or maybe they could have been on a flying lap. Whatever was the situation, of course, unfortunately one of the cars did get out of shape. Everyone checked up. It was an accordion effect, and Chad just happened to be on the end of it, and that was a qualifying lap spoiled. And he will start at least on the front row, at least, unless Andres Werner can just improve by slightly a few tenths. If he is in this group, apologies if he's not. But he's in the odd group. So it looks as though unless Brandon Traynor can improve at any point, because of course he was out there on the circuit, which he's not also. Don't know why I'm saying this, but Chad Peterson, he's going to try and get out to do one more lap. But it looks as though the grid is possibly set, and Michael Dinkel looks as though he'll be on pole unchallenged by almost 8 tenths of a second, which you have to admit is a mighty impressive time. And it's the only man that got closest to him on that time in practice was in fact Mike Owen. And that was on the 09 driver, and he was only about 4 tenths off of Dinkel's time in that one. So, and Dinkel actually went faster in practice. So it's intriguing that Dinkel couldn't quite match it, but he's very, very close. So Chad will try and get around, but I think his time has run out on that one. Yeah, and I tell you what, Conor Cross, I think he will just miss the start-finish line. There's 5 seconds left of qualifying as the flag man is unfurling the checkered flag, and now it waves. Qualifying is over. Any person on their lap, they can finish it off. Conor Cross goes very wide,
out of turn number 17. Let's see whether he can improve to 27th position. The answer is going to be he improves his time and up into P19 on the grid. Peterson pulls his car off the racetrack. Miguel Angel Martinez looking to go faster. He is in the number 17 car right now. He was 19th in practice, only 25th so far in qualifying. Tim Miller, he was in 17th in practice, now only running 21st in qualifying. Andrew Tan is on a lap, as is Michel De Jong and Tim Doyle. Robert Grosser coming out of the final corner. Let's see whether that Mulber car can improve. The number 13 machine coming out of the final corner. The charge toward the start-finish line, and for Grosser, he does a 1 minute 44.719, moving himself up into 9th place on the grid. Tim Doyle now coming down into turn number 17 for the final time. Let's see whether he can improve. Michel De Jong is not far behind, as is Andrew Tan. But Tim Doyle sweeping it to the right-hand side. Currently all the way down in 28th in the qualifying right now. He will work himself out of turn number 17. That charge round towards the start-finish line. Let's see whether he can improve. The answer is going to be yes, he does. It's a big jump up to P22 for Tim Doyle. Michel De Jong in the number 5 car. He improves his time. No, he doesn't. Andrew Tan does not improve his time also. He will be the last place guy in qualifying. And now we just await for Tim Miller to come past the start or finish line. And the number 91 car goes up into the 19th position there for Tim Miller in the last moments of qualifying, Scott.
Yeah, fantastic qualifying session. Of course, as we said, impressive time from Michael Dinkel, but Chad Peterson did a very good job to try and get himself into second place, and it was fairly close up at the front. Obviously, in the second down to fifth, of course, we had Peterson, Werner, Trainer, and Cook, all within about a tenth, just over a tenth of a second of each other. Isanyemi in sixth. A few tenths back as well, of course, with Martin Miller in 7th, and a few drivers down like Randolph Chenworth got bumped out of the top 10. He's actually out there in 13th spot on the grid as well. It should be a pretty intriguing race, of course. Looking at how many cars qualified, we've actually got, should be due to have 35 cars on the grid around this circuit, and with how narrow it can get on some sections, especially through turns 2, 3, and 4, the first lap especially could get pretty chaotic because it's quite a bottleneck down from through turn 1, because of course it's a contrast from the wide run through of turn 1, and then go up towards turns 2, 3, and 4. It tightens up so much. So effectively, if someone misses their braking point, who is not careful and being a bit too ambitious to try and go 2 or 3 wide with somebody, someone's going to end up into the wall, and it could possibly end in tears for one driver, possibly more if they're not careful.
So then, let's run through your starting grid for this, the second round of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series, powered by iRaceForLife.org. Pole position goes to number 10 car of Michael Dinkel, and he got a time of 1 minute 43.420, the only driver to get into the 1 minute 43s. Second place, Chad Peterson, time of 1 minute 44.124. Andreas Werner just 4/100ths of a second further back. Alongside Warner in the second row of the grid will be Brandon Traino in the number 15 Broken Arrow machine, as 2 Broken Arrow drivers on the outside of the first 2 rows. Matt Cook and Timo Insomi on row number 3. Martin Miller and Istvan Balau in row 4, with Robert Grosser and Gary Volkenhagen lining up in row number 5. Row number 6 is Michel De Jong and Mike Owen, with Randall Chenoweth and Nigel Marnoff in row number 7. Brett Fisher, Niall McBride in row 8, Brendan Lichtenberg, Eric Davis in row number 9, and then in row 10 is Tim Miller and Connor Cross. In total, 35 drivers had made the trip over to Sebring International Raceway for this, the second round of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series, as the pace car leads them up on this one and solitary pace lap. You have drivers doing 42 laps here today. Track temperature 87 degrees Fahrenheit, an easterly wind of 3 miles an hour. Race relative humidity is 30%. Be careful of turn 1. Be careful of the hairpin for the first time. Scott, who's your money on coming into this race?
I mean, the pace set throughout practice and qualifying, I probably would be safe to put it on Michael Dinkel. If he keeps himself out of trouble and can capitalise from a really good start off the rolling start, I reckon that Dinkel has the pace to possibly take the win. So, I mean, obviously it's going to be tough, of course, with Chad Peterson and Andreas Werner just behind, of course. But if, like I said, if Dinkel can get that jump on everybody off the line, I reckon possibly he could be off and away into the distance. So, for me, I think Dinkel possibly has the potential to take the race here at Sebring today.
Pace car is working himself down towards the hairpin for the first time on this pace lap. One of the things we need to be aware of is fuel potentially in this race. It is going to be very close And as we saw in 16th Street Racing League, downforce levels can be a big contributor to that, worth almost a lap and a half. Some guys on very different strategies here today. Some people knowing they might have to stop 3 times, others are going to try and push to only do it on 2 pit stops.
Yeah, of course, it's going to be very careful with of course, and the fuel management here at a circuit like this means effectively, it's very stop-start, so of course, you throttle out of corners. I think those who manage it most effectively are going to be obviously the ones that benefit in the long run. But of course, there's a balance between fuel saving and speed, because of course, if you try to fuel save too much, especially early on in the race, then of course it means that you could be at a disadvantage trying to play catch up later on. If you try and save fuel later on in the race, even though you have a long lead, those who have saved early on and have enough fuel to get to the finish and are able to push might just close in, and you could be in danger of losing your position. So these guys, again, they have to be smart, have to try and find a compromise between the two. This is all going to be about balancing in terms of just how quickly they can go with the setup they have, the fuel they can use, and of course time management as well. But of course, any cautions, of course, that come out in respect to well could play a factor. But again, it all depends on what can happen.
This is my most famous part of this racetrack. This 2 double left-hand kings as they then work it down into the chicane. It is a passing opportunity if you can really be behind the car. You've got to be very careful, however, over the curves. Very high curves at this part of the racetrack. It's single file as you run through it. You've got very wide concrete runoff areas, but if you run over them, there's a chance you can damage your race car and you have to serve a slow down penalty. And then they work themselves onto this, the back straightaway. It's a perfect place to line up a car for that run down into turn 17. So famous because there are literally hundreds of ways you can attack that corner, but only one of them is often the fastest, and we'll find out who is going to be the best of these drivers. And now they line up 2 by 2 by 2. And Mikkel Dinkel has got Chad Peterson lining up alongside him. Treno on the outside of row number 2. Andreas Werner on the inside. It's a very fast start here at Sebring as the pace car now works itself down in toward turn number 17. Getting set to go racing for 42 laps around Sebring International Raceway. And as the pace car comes out of the final turn, it will make its way down towards pit road. The second round of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series starts right now. Good start there by Dinkel. A good start by Warner as well. But everyone, as they come down into turn number 1 behind him, who will be the last late breakers? It's going to be Treno in the middle there, being able to get past. What a start there by Brandon Treno. Both Cook and Peterson, he was able to get past down into turn number 1. That is one of the bravest things I've seen in a long time. Istvan Banal trying to go too wide right now. Gary Borkenhagen. You've got Imisami with a slow start there. You see Banal trying to get himself past now on the outside of Imisami, and they're going to be too wide, almost too deep in this mid-pack. What a start to this race, Scott.
Absolutely brilliant, and like we said, Michael Dinkel has got that perfect getaway. He is starting to try and pull the advantage. I'm now watching Matt Cook trying to get defending from Isanyemi now. And that's now 4th position. I think Matt is just ahead, just keeping hold of it for the moment. But he has got Isanyemi all over the back of him so far, and also Martin Miller. Isanyemi's actually dropped way back down the field. I'm looking at the wrong person, I do apologise. Isanyemi is way down the field a few places back. So Matt Cook is in the battle for, I think it's about 4th or 5th position. I'm trying to work out who that is in front of him.
That would be Chad Peterson in the broken arrow machine.
Chad
and Imisami, yeah, he has fallen down at the start of this race. He's fallen back behind, actually, Istvan Banal, and he was going very slowly at the start of this race. But Cook, Treno, and Peterson, well, 3 wide into turn 1. It's not often you see drivers do that and manage to make it stick, but out in the sunset already is Michael Dinkel in that number 10 car. He has got himself a good 2nd, 2-second, 3-second lead now over Andreas Warner as he comes down into turn number 17 for the first time. Sunset Ben, Warner in the 2nd position, Treno in 3rd, but Treno is looking mighty fast right now in that Make-A-Wish Foundation broken arrow car as they come out of turn number 17. Treno is doing a very good job. He started this race all the way down in the 4th position, up now into the 3rd position, and really putting the pressure onto Werner in that 08 car.
And of course, the more pressure he puts on the early stage, the more it's going to force Werner to possibly try and use up a bit more fuel, trying to use up his tyres before he makes his first pit stop. So this could be tactics here from trainers to try and just get Werner to push that a little bit harder than he wants to. And Werner will have incentive also as well, because he's trying to chase after Dinkel, who has an incredible almost 3-second lead in front. And of course, if that's not soul destroying, I'm not quite sure what is. But we're looking at Treno now. He's of course running in 3rd position. Of course, Chad Peterson trying to recover after losing out on the front off the start, obviously from the front row of the grid. And also in there as well, Matt Cook in 5th position, doing an incredible job to hold on to this packet. It's a wonderful little 4-car train fighting over second place, but Werner controls the pace at the moment. But something tells me that possibly Trainer's pushing a little harder than he wants to, despite the fact that Werner is trying to chase after Dinkel. I think he's probably just being a bit more conservative in the opening lap, just to settle into a rhythm before he starts really getting the hammer down.
We did have an incident on lap number 1 down at the hairpin. This was between Anthony Burns and Randy Chenoweth. Chenoweth looks like he caught himself a white line down into the corner and spun his car around, and then behind Michael Armstrong ran smack into the rear there of, I believe that was Anthony Burns, sending them both out of the race. All the cars are on pit road right now trying to get themselves some repairs. Replay is up on your screen, and that all started with Chenoweth having his own incident, which put him out of the race. But then also you've got Vic Cordell, Anthony Burns out of the race as well. So 3 cars eliminated on the first lap of this race, but Michael Dinkel comes out of turn number 17, and he already has a huge 3-second advantage over Andreas Werner, and that is growing every single lap. And let's see what the gap is as they come past the line once again. Dinkel does a 1 minute 45.165, Andreas Werner a 1 minute 45.907, and here comes Treno down to the inside, battle for second position. Treno makes his stick, he moves up into the second position on the racetrack, and here comes Peterson as well. 2 broken aero cars past Andreas Werner in 1 corner, and if you're on the outside into turn 1, you've really got to try and defend that line coming out of the corner. Use the momentum that you can have getting back on the gas, and Werner just didn't do it there.
Yeah, and of course, the fact that that corner is so bumpy means it's quite easy to run wide in the course. And look at this already, just behind Matt Cook is looking to add to further Werner's misery by possibly stealing 4th place from him in that number 66 car. He is putting the pressure on already as they headed down towards turn 6 and out of it once again. But now, Trainer looks as though he was being held up a little bit by Werner's pace, and that means now he's got some clear air. He can start to pump in those quick laps to try and close the gap down to Dinkel as best he can. Looking a little bit further back and looking best of the rest in 6th with Robert Grosser, ahead of Gary Borkenhagen in 7th. And then we've got a train of cars led by Martin Miller with Istvan Balog and then teammate Isanemi. Michael de Jong is in there as well with Nigel Marnief and also Eric Davis and Brett Fisher. So a nice train going on here at the moment to battle for the lower places down in the top 15. But what a start I had to say for Michael Dinkel. Already on lap, to the end of lap 3. And already almost a 4-second advantage on first place. We said that if he gets a chance, he'll do it. Around, I think that's Chad Peterson. He's made a mistake somewhere, and Trainer's got through, and so also has Matt Cook as well. So 2 position changes. I didn't quite catch it on my screen, but they're now going to go side by side into Sunset Bend. And Cook, I think, is going to try and make a move around the outside, and seeing that Werner's going to stick the inside lines, Peterson just sits back and watches it all unfold. Werner gets the job done, or has he? Because on the exit, they're also going to go 3 wide. Here comes Chad Pearson on the outside, and here comes now Matt Cook in the centre. See Werner getting very defensive, forcing Cook to go to the outside line, and somehow Werner keeps his car in front.
Oh!
A little sideways! Cook a little sideways, and Peterson gets through. Awesome racing between those 3, and thankfully none of them hit each other, which is a minor miracle, because at one point they were all very close and wheel to wheel.
Indeed it is, and Matt Cook there, he gained up a position, then he lost it all over again. Andreas Werner back up now into the 3rd position, and that was a crazy lap there. These guys are very closely matched from pace. Andreas Werner running in the 3rd position, Chad Peterson running in 4th, Matt Cook running in the 5th spot. Of course, Matt Cook, the first time he was ever on a road course was here at Sebring International Raceway, but Peterson gets a better run out of the hairpin. He's going to try and dive down to the inside of Andreas Werner as they come down into turn number 7. It's going to be the last of late breakers. Who's going to get the job done? Peterson on the brake side. Werner is able to keep the position on the outside line, but Peterson looks as though he is in a hurry right now, and he really is trying to get a move on in that battle for the 3rd position on the racetrack. And Cook is also closed right back up to the rear, and all of this has allowed Robert Grosser to close up as well, and he's going to make it a potentially a 4-car battle around the outside. Here comes Peterson. Peterson gets the job done there over Andreas Werner at the fastest place on the racetrack, Scott.
And that's a brave move. That's not a move you take lightly, of course. That was an awesome pass from Chad Peterson. That takes skill to try and pull that one off, especially around the outside at a high-speed corner like that. And so he should be very proud of himself. I'm sure there's a small spot. Someone's off in the background. Is that Gary Borkenhagen? I think it is Gary Borkenhagen off the exit of Le Mans corner onto the Alban Straight. He has lost a couple of positions to, I think, also Istvan Balog, Martin Miller, and Michael de Jong, which means I think he's down now to about 10th position, I think. So that was a small minor mistake from Borkenhagen. Just lost it, I think, on the exit, and managed to get it back up across the grass. But already he seems to be struggling. He'll be trying to get himself back up through the order as they progress onto lap number 5. This 42-lap race. De Jong down to the inside there of Martin Miller, and he's going to get the job done very easily. Miller is going to give him the inside line, and he will try and attack that position a little bit later on in the lap. But
There's passing all the way through the top 10 in this race right now. Really good start to the first road race of the 2014 ISOWC campaign. However, out front, Michael Dinkel is now 4.5 seconds ahead of Brandon Trainer. Last time by, Trainer did a 1 minute 45.507. Dinkel a 1 minute 44.891. So it's not as much of a gap per lap that Dinkel is gaining. Now Trainer's going to need to get himself up into P2. But Matt Cook trying to go down. Look how much of a gap he had there. Absolutely none. Trying to go to the outside there of Andreas Werner. Will he get the pass done? The answer is going to be no. The track does go to the left next, but Cook, which is not able to stay side by side. Everyone is in a hurry in the early stages of this race. We are only on lap number 5 of 42, and Cook is in a hurry now to get past Werner, because I think he knows that he is faster. And I tell you what, in the next half an lap or so, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cook perhaps slide down the inside into turn number 17. They come down into the chicane section of the racetrack once again, down into Le Mans corner, turn at number 16 of the racetrack. Can Cook get a good run out of here? We'll try and go on board with him. The answer is no. He will be a little bit further back now, so he's going to have all the work to do through turn number 17, Sunset Bend, and then he'll have to try and get that pass and potentially into turn number 1. He closes the gap down to about 2 car lengths, taking very different apexes there through the corner, and Werner very sideways to the centre of the corner. That allowed Cook to close the gap up just a little bit, but not quite close enough for Cook. He's going to have to wait another half a lap or so.
It does beg the question, why do IndyCars just test here? Because this is fantastic racing at Sebring, of course. I'd love to see a real IndyCar at Sebring, as I think it's that Peterson a little wide, kicking up some dust on the exit of turn 1. So he's certainly feeling the pressure as he tries to chase after Brandon Trainer. But the incredible thing is just how much of a hurry Trainer was in, because he's already jetted off into the distance and pulled his own 4-second gap on this group here battling. Peterson is also getting in a hurry as he's pulled a 2-second advantage over Werner. So the catalyst in this is Werner. He is running at the same pace as Cook. Makes a dive down the inside into the left right-hander. Great pass. Oh, contact! Around goes Werner. Cook stays in the middle, and through it all goes Robert Grosser. And Van Belloc has to go straight across onto the grass, almost make contact in the 22 machine. And a huge chain of events, and that now puts, as we said, a huge catalyst as Cook has now rejoined, but he is now, of course, quite a way behind. He's now trying to rejoin behind Robert Grosser, but intriguing piece of incident. I wonder how much damage both cars have sustained, but I think in some cases, I think Werner just left the door open and didn't realise that Matt Cook was diving down the inside. I think from there just turned in, and of course, well, you saw what happened next.
Indeed, yeah, and you saw the replay up on your screen there as well a moment ago. Cook came down into the corner, and actually Cook, he kind of bobbled a little bit under braking. We'll try and get ourselves another replay on board with Cook. It just seemed to be, as he locked up the brakes as he came down into the corner, tried to brake a little bit later. Actually, that really was a bit of a racing incident there, that Cook had just kind of locked up his tyres, couldn't keep it on the inside apex. Werner, he did turn into the corner, didn't know that Cook was there. However, really was a bit of a racing incident there. You can't really blame Werner for that one at all, because Cook really did come into that corner hot, and ahead of him, almost a half spin there by Roderick Grosser as he came out of Sunset Bend, turn number 17, as these guys complete lap number 6 in this race. Istvan Balau in the number 22 car has fallen back a little bit as well. He is now running in the 8th position on the racetrack, as we've got a car on pit road as well. That is Vic Cordell trying to bring his car back out onto the racetrack. He was going to come out amongst a lot of lap traffic, and Michael de Jong now putting a lot of pressure on Werner in that 08 car. It's interesting to see how much damage Cook has to his car as well as Werner. It did look as though it was a bit of a side-on hit, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. These Indy cars are built strong, as Randy Freeman goes off the racetrack as well in the 26th position, looking as though he is having a very torrid day in that number 26 car, running all the way down in the 30th position on the racetrack right now. But that's our first big incident, as Martin Nickel-Kirken also slow on the racetrack, and he gets it all loose through turn number 1. He's got some damage to his left side pod, and that car just snapped under him, so he ran over the bumps there on the exit of turn number 1, got himself the car off the racetrack in that McCafe McDonald's machine, and he now is all the way down in the 22nd position on the racetrack. Crazy start to this race, Scott, and what that incident with Cook and Werner has done, though, is allowed Grosser up into the 4th position, and he now is trying to reel in Chad Peterson, who's 6 seconds ahead of him.
Of course, that's no easy feat, of course. These Indy cars very closely matched. Of course, it very is down to drivers and setup rather than car performance, of course. And now as he heads onto the Allman Straight to head towards the end of lap 7, Grosser's going to try and close in. I think they're starting to come to lap traffic already, because Chad Peterson is trying to get himself around a lapped car, and that's 26. And looking down the order, that is of 26 is of Randy Freeman, so he's a lap down now, struggling out there. little bit. Just a bit of information on Nagelkirk. I did catch him. He was rejoining off the circuit. I think he went off down at the Cunningham corner, I think, was where he went off on that one. But he got himself rejoined, and he was obviously spinning around and trying to get his car back under control. But Chad Peterson looking in third place. The gap between him and Trainer is now, it's about 8.4 seconds, and Brandon Trainer actually has started to bring it down now to Michael Dinkel, because it's now 4.6 seconds. Last lap times around, it was a 44.862 for Dinkel, a 44.657 for Trainer. So Trainer seems to be matching. Now he's got himself up to speed and really pumping in those quick laps. He is starting to trade blow for blow with Dinkel for pace. It seems to be on that lap, Trainer was able to one-up him in terms of faster lap times. So whether, because there's plenty of time left in the race, we've still got several laps to go in this 42 lap race. Possibly whether or not Trainer can catch Dinkel will be seen. And of course, we've still got pit stops to factor in as well, because that could all change the complexion of the race. And usually a race can be won and made interesting on strategy rather than just overtaking in incidents.
Michael Dinkel's last lap time, a 1 minute 44.862. Behind him, Brandon Trainer at 1:44.6. Actually, last time by, Trainer gained 2 tenths of a second. That gap is 4.6 seconds on the racetrack right now, as we're working on lap number 8 of 42 here in the second round of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series, powered by iRaceForLife.org. That battle for 6th position continues between Andres Warner and Michael De Jong. De Jong hasn't been able to find a way past Warner yet as they flick a cone up into the air. De Jong gets a much better run, however, out of the Mont corner, turn number 16, and he's closed that gap down to about half a car length. Will it be close enough to go down to the inside? He's going to try and put it there into turn number 17. De Jong on the inside, Warner on the outside, and thankfully De Jong there was able to really just slingshot that car down to the inside, then brush wide as he needs to. He gets himself past Warner, moving himself up into the 6th position on the racetrack. But Warner is not giving up yet. He is still close in that battle for P6, and it does look as though that almost De Jong drops the wall there past the front and start-finish line. Behind them, Istvan Ballau is trying to recover right now, and he is all over the tail of Gary Balkenhagen in 9th position right now. Balkenhagen is in 8th, and these two are very closely matched on the racetrack. Of course, Istvan Ballau is a former ISOWC road course champion. Ballau getting a very good run out of turn number 4. Will he find the speed? He needs to go down to the inside, into the hairpin. It's going to be a very late break if he does so, but he's going to try and put his car there. Will he get it? No, he won't.
And also, these guys have actually been trading places for about a lap and a half. Of course, they did swap places. That it was originally this point. Oh, there goes actually. I talked about him. Balkenhagen straight into the tyres on the exit of Vandio corner at turns 8 and 9, and he'll try and get it going again. But that thing is possibly toast. The front wing's toast anyway. He'll try and get it back to the pits to try and get it repaired. But he really has had a poor run so far. So he's going straight across the grass to be out of the way of any faster cars, which is the safest thing to do. But poor Gary Balkenhagen in that battle with Istvan Ballau. We were talking about how it was such a great fight, and all of a sudden, commentators curse straight off into the tyres. Not a good day, and not a happy chap in Gary Balkenhagen.
Yeah, he just caught that bump on the exit of the hairpin, which a number of drivers have already done in this race. And in fact, I think Balkenhagen actually lost it himself a little bit earlier on at that same place. He was able to keep it going, however. That's how he lost position earlier on in this race. But now he is classified as out of the race.
And also saw as well, I think the car 24, which is Cam Stark, he actually tried to avoid Balkenhagen and went straight across on us over at Cunningham corner and did very well to keep it out of the tyres. But he just went skipping across and almost gave himself a heart attack. So Balkenhagen's struggling still out there across on the concrete as he lets some of the faster cars through once again, including Cam Stark number 24. So he's trying to get back, but of course that is pretty much his race over, and he will not recover from that anytime soon.
John Porzek is now ahead of Cam Stark, and Porzek moving up into the 18th position, Cam Stark down into the 19th position, as John Porzek is trying to get himself a top 15 finish in this race. In that number 027 Banshee Autosport car, we're going to have a quick chat with Randy Chenoweth. Now, Randy, you had a very short race here, only lasted you up until the hairpin. You spun all by yourself as you try and caught a white line while slowing down to avoid another car, and then you just got T-boned by Anthony Burns.
I didn't catch the white line. I think I got the grass, but Niall broke a little earlier than I thought he would, and I had to spin to avoid. Otherwise, I would have run into the back of him. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to work my way forward from the rear, which would have sucked, but would have been fun at the same time. Then as I was trying to get on, someone ran into the back of it. I think it was Anthony, and he got sent into me, and nothing he could do about it. Not his fault. It's unfortunate, but hoping to have a better run. I didn't quite have the pace today that I thought I would, so.
Very quickly, we'll come back to you in a moment. Timo Misome tried to go down to the inside of Eric Davis into turn number 9, wasn't able to do so, and in the resulting melee, in fact, Nigel Marnoff was able to get up a position, passing Imosome. Imosome was really trying to make a pass at a difficult percentage of the racetrack, wasn't able to get the job done, and it does look as though potentially he might have just clipped Eric Davis a tiny bit because he hasn't got any front wing damage, but that car is a little bit slower than it was earlier on. Now, Randy, first 2 rounds of the season haven't gone your way at all. Out at Homestead, out here today at Sebring, and it kind of carries on your string of bad luck from the last couple of rounds of the 16th Street Racing League. How can you bounce back when you go to Long Beach in 2 weeks' time?
Long Beach is going to be tough because a few kind of other races I've done there, I've never done very well either. So it might be a difficult start to the season. But hopefully I can pick up the luck and, just try and move forward, practice, so I can do.
Well, feel free to stick around with us as we're now working ourselves on lap number 11, getting close to quarter race distance. To run through your top 10, Michael Dinkle has a 4.5 second lead over Brandon Traino, and 3rd place is Chad Peterson, 4th Robert Grosser, 5th is Matt Cook after his incident earlier on in this race, 6th is Mikel De Jong, 7th is Andres Warner, 8th is Esteban Ballau, 9th Eric Davis, and then 10th is Nigel Menard. Charles Custerwide is out of the race. Shenworth burned. Cordell is out of the race again after trying to bring his car back out into the racetrack. Noel McBride is out. Martin Miller is now out, as is Randy Freeman, Michael Armstrong, and Tim Doyle, and Andrew Tan and Dave Jinks.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Cam Stark is out as well. He went straight on in powered corner on lap 10.
So that's the 2nd time he's had an incident in this race, and now Cam Stark is out of this race. So very high attrition early on in this race. Trying to figure out what happened actually to Martin Miller in that number 6 car, because he normally is pretty good on these road courses. However, he continues his bad string of luck in the ISOWC IndyCar series. Of course, he was out of the race very early on at Homestead Miami Speedway after he came together with a back marker while actually leading the race. Here today at Sebring International Raceway, he is out of the race again in the early going. This is not the start to his season that he wanted. In fact, Miller spun the car down at the hairpin to try and get ourselves a replay of that, and it does look as though afterwards he just had an incident around the same portion of the racetrack a lap later, caught himself in that bump. And Chenoweth, how bad is that bump in the hairpin this season?
The bumps aren't too bad. The IndyCar actually deals with them rather well, but if you do hit them wrong, it can really upset the car. And I haven't had a bump spin me that I couldn't, that wasn't catchable, but whether or not you do catch it is the question. But it's not like ridiculous.
Meanwhile, Scott, out front, Michael Dinkle is starting to flex his muscles once again. He's eked out that gap to Brandon Trainer now to 5.2 seconds on the racetrack. We are getting closer to that first round of pit stops, which will happen soon. Most of these guys are thinking they're going to try and do it on 1 stop. Some of them will have to do it on 2. But Dinkle in that number 10 car really is flying right now. His last lap time, a 1 minute 44.274. That was his fast lap of the race by about 2/10 of a second.
And just shows that his practice and qualifying pace is justified. The fact that he was so dominant in both practice and in the qualifying session means that that pace is for real. It's not just sandbagging. It's not just on low fuel. He really does have that natural speed in him, especially on a circuit like Sebring on a road course. So where he might not necessarily excel on an oval. I haven't ever seen a race on an oval, so I'm only presuming. But on a road course, he certainly is a man to be feared. And as he comes across the line, the gap is now up by a further 1/10.5. So it's now almost 5.4 seconds. I did notice there was a car on pit road, so maybe we might want to check that and see who that might be. Well, but in terms of Dinkle's pace at the moment, it's looking pretty good for the number 10 machine. He is working his way now through turns 2, 3, and 4, and now through turn 5, up towards turn 6, and then the hairpin of turn 7 up at the end of the straight. But Dinkle having a wonderful run so far, and obviously my prediction of possibly running away with it seems to be coming true at the moment. Although trainers, there's still plenty of time for him to turn the wick up, and of course, like I said, things are unpredictable in racing. A back marker could cause some problems. He could run into technical problems of his own. Anything can happen, but at the moment, it's all trouble-free for Michael Dinkle up at the front.
And let's not forget, Brandon Trainer had some issues in the 2.4 hours of Daytona a little bit earlier on this year, leading the race until the final lap when he had some issues which put him out, losing that race eventually to Kevin O'Keefe. But Trainer at the same time, he's a former ISOWC winner. He's a former pole sitter for the ISOWC IndyCar series. He's also a 16th Street Racing League winner and accomplished on the road course. So a really dark horse in that number 15 car, who's by far the top driver at the moment in that Broken Arrow stable, which also comprises of Chad Peterson and Brendan Lichtenberg, who both have actually been really consistent in both ISOWC and 16th Racing League competition. However, a little bit further down the field right now, checking on the battle between Marnoff and Timo Inasomi, because Inasomi has fallen back in the last couple of laps of this race now to the 10th position. Does seem to be he just lost some grip on that race car. His tyres have come up to temperature. He was at one point right behind Eric Davis, and Davis has actually now had an issue, and he's all the way down in the 19th position on the racetrack with a damaged rear wing. We'll get an update of what happened to that in a moment's time. But Inasomi is having a rather up and down day today in this race. He's got good speed, but he's lacking a little bit of consistency.
Yeah, that's very true. Of course, he was relatively quick in practice, and of course, then just the qualifying pace wasn't really there. And of course, he's been up in one or two incidents in this race so far as well. As I see, watching mine, he's had to kind of have a double take as they head into Sunset Bend. Kind of turned in once, the car didn't agree with it. Had to turn again to resettle the car through the middle of the corner. So that must have been a bit of a scare as he heads across the line to start lap 14 of 42. As there's a couple of cars that made their way onto pit road as they continue to get repairs onto their cars, but Marty's making his way through turn and kicks up some dust as in the face of Isanyemi as they head into the complex and turns 2, 3 and 4. And let's see exactly what the gap is this time. Of course, the gap as when they came across the stripe last time was roughly around 6 to 7 tenths of a second, so not exactly too bad in terms of the pace that Isanyemi showed to try and keep up with Marnie as they head up towards the turn 7 hairpin. And I wonder just exactly now as they go forwards just how much more pace Isanyemi has in that car. Certainly does close under braking, so for the moment at least, it seems as though it's advantage Isanyemi, but of course with the narrow nature of the circuit, despite the fact it being high speed, it's going to be quite intriguing to see how he can actually make a pass. I would have thought if he can stay this close, he got a good chance down the Ormond Straight into Sunset Bend to make a move. If not, maybe line him up down the pit straight for a pass into turn 1.
And behind them, you have battles going on in the mid-pack. Now, the mid-pack's going to be very interesting with whether they go on a 1 or a 2-stop strategy, as Brett Fisher actually is just able to get himself diving on the outside there of Zabi Ibora in the 666 car, and Brett Fisher now moves himself up into the 19th place on the racetrack. We still have 21 cars scored on the lead lap. The last one of them is Miguel Angel Martinez, who had a great run, of course, at Homestead just 1 week ago, but really is struggling on the road courses here today. Martin Kirkhead also is towards the end of the rear lap. He's got that issue to his left-hand side pod in that McAfee car. We talked to you about that earlier on in the race. He is all the way down in the 20th position on the racetrack as Matt Cook has had another spin, which now puts him down into the 10th place on the racetrack. And let's see what happened there to Cookie, because he has had a couple of issues already in this race, which now means he is down at the rear end of the top 10. This is not the start to the race that Matt Cook would have wanted, Randy, because let's not forget, he had an issue, actually, it was at the same corner he had the issue with Courtney Terrell in the 16th Street Racing League race.
Yeah, Matt's definitely wanting to stay up front. He's definitely a championship contender. He's really good on the ovals. And probably the only thing that could possibly hold him up is probably his road course driving. He's here in the top 10. He's not doing too bad. There's still a lot can happen. You just got to calm down and just quit making mistakes. I know that. I know I do the same thing a lot. I'll have an incident, and then incidents will breed incidents because I'll get flustered. But he just needs to try and not let that happen. As there's a car off on the grass, too, that Andres Werner is off. Out of the race, it looks like.
Yeah, so Andres Werner, he's got himself a rear bent wing in that Adidas car, and he just lost it at the same place, down at that hairpin. Just trying to get a replay of what happened to him. And he just caught the curb, and the exit of the corner, and he just spun that car around into the tyre bar. Now, I'm not sure what it is today, Randy, but that hairpin is causing drivers a lot more of an issue than we normally see. Is there anything particularly on the racetrack which is, to blame for these drivers getting so slippery out of that corner?
It's a bit warmer than it usually is, and people might be having issues with tires. I know I was having to brake a bit earlier, and I had to be a little bit easier on the throttle to keep wheel spin from happening. The hairpin has always been a place where it's real easy to get a wheel spin. It's possible. Could have been a few different things that factored into it, but it's definitely hot, and that is undoubtedly playing into it. He also may have caught the grass on the left-hand curb when you come out of the hairpin. You run over that curb on the left. He might have caught the grass a little bit, and that might have just spun the left rear tire up and started around.
So then, the battle continues. Now it is Robert Grosser who is classified in the 2nd position, as attrition does start to come into effect just a little bit in this race. Dinkel does still lead now by 28 seconds, as something has happened to Brandon Trainer as well. I'm not sure if he's actually made a pit stop. I believe he actually has made a pit stop by the look of it, because yeah, he brought his car onto pit road at the conclusion of lap number 15. So Brandon Trainer on a 2-stop strategy, as is Chad Peterson. Now, it does mean that these guys don't have to worry about fuel at all in this race car, but very early to do it, lap number 16 of 41, and this could really hurt their chances of getting a podium. It'll be interesting to see now, A, how fast they can go, and B, this now shows why they're in such a hurry to get going at the start of this race.
Yeah, because of course the strategy is most important, of course, and like I said, if you're getting caught up on some of the tight sections, not as they make your way through traffic or through other cars in front to try and gain positions. Of course, like, it's an issue we saw earlier on with the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, the fact that any guys who are going on a 2-stop strategy, they're going to have to get the moves done early on in the race to benefit from a 2-stop strategy. If they don't, it's curtains for their race and their strategy, because effectively they haven't made it the place they needed to, especially if they're somewhere down the mid-pack and the field gets spread out. It makes their job even more harder. Basically means that effectively they could, if they were going to try and switch to a 1-stop strategy, all the kind of potential to do so is wasted, because they haven't got rid of the traffic that's in front of them around them. Now, of course, the majority of the circuit is fairly narrow. The only wide sections you've got are around the back straight, Sunset Bend, and then through on the pit straight down to, and through turn 1. Those are the only wide sections basically where you can make opportune passes. So if you're not taking those chances, you've only got yourself to blame. And of course, obviously, while chances are few and far between, it's the ones who take those few chances the quickest and the smartest in order to really capitalise on their strategy and make whatever they're choosing to run work for them in the best possible way.
Andrew Tant has brought his car back out onto the racetrack. However, it does seem to be very damaged to him. Let's see what happened to him. We've got a couple of cars on pit road as well right now, so we'll get you an update on that in just one moment's time, as we're now working ourselves on lap number 17 here at Sebring International Raceway, and it is still Dinkle who is leading the way. A couple of cars coming out of pit road, as you can see on your screen. But this race has settled down a little bit as Davis goes very wide out the final corner. Terry Tinson breezes down his inside. Davis is having a tough day, and that turn number 17, you never want to touch that car, Shinworth.
Yeah, 17 is really sketchy. This is probably the scariest corner in my opinion, with all the bumps. Get a little offline, and there goes 3/10 or possibly your car into the wall. Davis got pretty lucky there, I think.
However, he was able to carry on, and they continue around the racetrack. Now, I say Andrew Tan is going slowly. Race Control are looking into this, because that car, as he almost caused an incident there with Timo Isomi, as he just cut the course there. Isomi, I think, has got some damage now to his front wing. Isomi's day goes from bad to worse, because here comes Peterson on his inside, and that was a very crazy moment.
Certainly was, and he's trying to recover from that move.
That was Andrew Tant there in that second to last corner. I don't really know what he was trying to accomplish, to be honest.
Got crazy.
Yeah, it was obviously just one of those instances where just it all comes together at the apex of the corner, and just obviously you couldn't make it work. But Chad's now running in 7th, of course. Isan Yami's going to try and close in and keep his cool for the moment, because that was quite a shaky incident for both of them, I think. And Peterson will try and push on to try and close the gap. The gap now to Chad Peterson to Nigel Marnie is now almost 4 seconds as they move across. But Chad's really going to have to try and have his work cut out to make this work for him.
Out front, Michael Dinkle is just driving away. Now we know that the two broken aero drivers, Brandon Traino and also Chad Peterson, are on 2-stop strategies. Dinkle has a 31-second lead over Robert Grosser. This is not the sort of speed that we've seen from a driver since Young O ran back here in the 16th Street Racing League season. But Grosser is still doing a good job, and he's also pulling away from Mikkel de Jong right now in that battle for the 2nd position on the racetrack. We've got more cars onto pit road. This time it's Rene Murray, and Michael Dinkle, your race leader, is now on pit road. So we are close to that halfway distance. However, for Dinkle, 18 laps, he might not be able to make it with one other stop. What do you think there, Shinwa?
I don't think he's going for a one-stopper, to be honest. I think the race is just a little bit too long to make it feasible. I think you have to save too much in order to get it done. I think the 2-stopper is the correct call, and it's definitely what he's probably going for here. Probably just doing a longer first stint. It is kind of a different strategy. He'll be able to take a shorter second stint, though, which is where it'll end up paying off for him.
Give you an idea of where Brandon Traino is. He's now just coming on the start-finish straight, so Dinkle still has a huge advantage of this race as he brings his car out of pit road. we have a couple of other cars who are on pit road as well. Robert Grosser is on pit road, as is Mikel de Jong. So pit stops really are starting for these drivers, because you've got Iswan Bala also making his first journey onto pit road. Pit road getting a very busy place here, Scott.
Yeah, this is the prime time. These guys, this is where really moves can be made, and obviously this is where the field can be really. You get to see a lot of movers and shakers in this part of the race, of course, as all three of those guys on pit road do make it. And the second, we've got a lot of pit guys coming onto pit road to make their stops. Trying to cycle through to see who that might be coming in. Let's have a look. Try to see if we've got any more on my screen, see if we've got any more that are coming in to pit road.
Pierre Bourdais on pit road right now in that Team Hornet / SSR Racing number 92 car. He's going to get 4 tyres. He is out and away. But a lot more cars will be pitting in the next couple of laps. Martin Michael Kirkham coming onto pit road. Very wide actually there for Terry Matinton. I think he's trying to get onto pit road. He missed the cones as John Porzik now comes onto pit road. And let's see if any other cars come on. But it's a very busy place. It's like the 666 car is taking a tight line. I think he's trying to come onto pit road this time by. Indeed he is. And Martin Michael Kirkham follows him onto pit road as well. So first stop really going on for these drivers.
Yeah, looks like a bit of a race down pit road between Bora and Nagelkirchen on the rev limiters, on the pit limiters I should say, and they both literally, look at that, they're pretty much almost next door neighbours in the pit crews. Both of them get to work. A couple more cars making their way down pit road because they have finished their stops, and we'll have to see exactly who's going to get out first in this one. I think it's going to be just about Javi Bora. Nagelkirchen follows suit, and off and away they go. So no change in position, track position at least for these two. So Nagelkirchen will continue to look at the rear end, and we've got a couple more cars heading into the pit. And one of them is Nigel Marnie in the 069. He's pitting from what was 5th position, as a couple more cars head across the line. He comes to make his first stop, and of course with a very crumpled front wing on that number 069 machine.
Yeah, Marnev had a good start to this race, and also Lichtenberg is onto pit road as well. Marnev started this race down in the 14th position, was able to get himself up into the top 10 in the early going, had some great battles going in that Team Benelux car, but here comes Lichtenberg onto pit road as well. It looks as though that Shenworth, the Broken Arrow drivers are doing a split strategy, which is what they kind of often do, and never discount Brendan Lichtenberg. He had a great second half of the 16 Street Racing League season, and really is a dark horse for the championship. He's good on ovals, good on road courses, and that is what you need in a mixed discipline series like this.
Yeah, with a mixed discipline, you really, sometimes it doesn't pay off to be really good at one thing and bad at the other. Sometimes it's best just to be slightly above average at both things, and Brendan's definitely really good at it. In terms of the split strategy, we'll have to see. I think the race is a little too long to pull off the one-stopper, but I think you have, like I said, I think you have to save too much, but if he can do it, it'll be interesting, and it'll put him up there in the running for sure.
And let's not forget, any driver that pits now, they should be close enough to go to the end, because of the fact we had that one lap of pacing at the start of the race, and these guys do burn a tiny bit of fuel while sat on the grid as well. Dinkel does however lead now by 9.1 seconds over Brandon Traino. Chad Peterson is a further 6 seconds back. Timo Inisome actually now up into the 4th position in this race, with Nigel Manaf in the 5th position, Robert Grosser in 6th, Brendan Lichtenberg in 7th. 8th place is Mikel de Jong, 9th is Isman Bala, and then Matt Cook rounds out your top 10. Don't forget that the ISOWC IndyCar Series is brought to you by iRaceForLife.org. With a partnership with the ISOWC IndyCar Series and iRaceForLife.org, $5 goes to the winner charity of choice for every single race of the 2014 season. Also brought to you in part by And One Design, official graphics partner of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series, and also by iRacing.com. If you head over to iRacing.com right now, you can start your iRacing journey for as little as $5, as well as 50% off a 3-month, 1-year or 2-year membership. This race is also brought to you, of course, by the Will and Dave Show. It's every Friday, 4 PM Eastern, live on Glacier TV. The most fun they can have with your pants on. The Will and Dave Show, Friday, 4 PM Eastern, live and exclusive on Glacier TV. Also available on iTunes. Now, we're in this stage of the race, Scott, where Traino is going to naturally be faster than Dinkel, because Traino made his first stop earlier. He's going to have less fuel on that car than Dinkel at this stage of the race. He's got to push, because Dinkel makes a mistake, then this race can still be wide open.
Absolutely. I mean, in this pit stop phase, of course, Dinkel's pulled out a few more seconds. I mean, the gap is currently 8.8 seconds at the line. So, of course, but Traino has, of course, like Dinkel has clear space, clear track in front of him. There's a lapped car is coming up to anyway, but of course he'll clear him pretty quickly. But I mean, Dinkel now really has to try and put his foot down as well, because he'll know that Trainer's tyres will be up to temperature quicker, which means he'll have been in the operating the optimum range for them much earlier, and much sooner. It means he'll be able to take a bit more advantage. But we'll get to see exactly what kind of laps he's turning as he comes across the line right now. Dinkel's last lap was a 1:44.9. Trainer's comes and does a 45.1. So of course not as quick, and the gap's back up to 9.1 seconds. Now that could have been a factor with traffic. It could have been Trainer on just a slightly bad lap. He has got a lap car in front of him to try, as we said, to try and deal with. But he's coming to the very twisting part of the circuit, which means he's going to get held up a little bit more, and that will give the advantage back to Dinkel. That's the 0:27 car of John Porzuk, who's going to move out of the way as he dutifully does, and lets the Trainer through. So, of course, now himself, of course, Trainer's also trying to extend the gap back to Chad Peterson in third. Of course, he's a further around 7 seconds ahead. So, of course, he's trying to make sure that he maintains that advantage in second place. So, Trainer has a lot of work to do, but in this second phase of the race, I'm sure that obviously he'll be able to knuckle down with clear air and try and close that gap as best he can.
Meanwhile, Matt Cook, you might saw on your screen, or try and get us a replay of it, was able to get past Nigel Marnath in the battle for the 8th position. Cook is trying to recover. Actually, now Cook's up into second. He spins it again down in turn number 1. Does a full 360. Almost catches Marnath there, but Cook somehow managed to keep it pointing in the right direction. He's got himself a little bit of front wing damage because of it. Going to get that car back onto the racetrack, but the third unforced error there for Matt Cook in the number 66 car. He had just got himself past Marnath in that number 069 car, and then Cookie in that 66 Aero X racing machine. Just seemed to be he caught a bump there in turn number 1. There is a bump right in the center of the apex. Most drivers avoided it, but that time, Chenoweth, it just seemed to be on the entry of the corner. He was already loose, and then that car just carried on spinning on him.
Yeah, it looks to me like a combination of the bump and him being on the brakes. I know I've done it in turn 1 a couple times, but turn 17 was an issue for me. Sunset Bend, where the car would do that when you were hard on the brakes. You might be just have a little bit too much rear brake bias in that thing, but I don't know, he definitely needs to calm down. With the third spin on the day, he's going to be, furious with himself, but needs to relax and make sure that doesn't happen a 4th time.
And he falls down to the 10th position on the racetrack, and he actually loses about 10-15 seconds in the process of doing that. Now, this is Matt Cook, of course, the 2013 16 Street Racing League champion, as he goes off again down at the hairpin. So it's not going Cook's way in that LX racing car. And this is the thing, the long races in the ISOWC IndyCar series, Scott, means that fatigue is an issue, because these cars are very heavy to drive. They are so line sensitive, and it does look for some of these drivers already the strain of doing it for such a long distance is starting to show.
Yeah, concentration levels are a major factor when it comes to racing these long distances. And of course, if your concentration starts to slip, if your fatigue levels cause the drop as a result of that, then of course it can mean that you can make a lot more unforced errors. So Cook might be struggling a little bit out there. He's currently, as a whole, off the leader. He's 1 minute and 15 seconds off the leader. So when you might be in danger, so
he hits the wall again in turn 1.
Sideways, half sideways, managed to catch it. So either that car, well, looking at Cook's car, now I think, if I'm wrong in saying, I think that front end left end plate on the wing is damaged. So possibly there could be some suspension damage, could possibly be some aero damage that's causing it. But Matt Cook's really struggling out there. On a side note, obviously, whilst looking at that, is that getting held up behind John Porzuk has actually caused Brad and Trainer quite a lot of strife, because remember the last time we saw him, he was 9.1 seconds back behind Michael Dinkel. Next time around, he was 10.7 behind. Across the line he goes. He's now down to 11.4. So he's losing time hand over fist to Dinkel at this point.
Yeah, I think Dinkel is just starting to play around in the field. Dinkel just doing an absolutely superb job. And let's have a look at his fastest lap in the race. A 1 minute 44.030. That would have given him pole position. That is how fast he's going. He can race faster than anyone else can qualify in this series so far. He has got lap traffic ahead of him, Dave Jinks and Eric Davis. So the first time he's really going to start going through larger packs of lap traffic. And that's the time when you have got to be a little bit more careful on the racetrack. Towards the rear of the field, Brett Fisher and Pierre Bourdon right now are battling for what is 12th position on the racetrack. We're down to 13 cars scored on the lead lap, as Tim Miller, John Porzuk, Terry Mattinson, Xavier Bora, Martin Nagel-Kirkin, Rene Murray, Dave Jinks, Eric Davis already scored laps down in this race. But still good battles going on towards the rear of the field. This one between Bourdon and Fisher does look as though it's calmed down for just a moment's time, but Bourdon can be very good on these road courses.
Yeah, most definitely. most definitely some fantastic stuff out there, of course, and obviously it's very different from being a road course ring.
Sorry to interrupt you, Scott, but Matt Cook has pulled it off the racetrack.
Wow. So we'll get an update just to see what happened there to Cookie in that number 66 car. That is disappointing there, and he just pulled it off as he just came out the hairpin just into turn number 9. There we are. It is game over. We'll get a word with Cook in a moment, but this is now going to be 2 retirees from the first 2 races. Really, it's a bit of fall from grace, Randy, from what he completed in the 16th Street Racing League. And sometimes we talk about it in the Irish.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We talked about it in 16th Street Racing League. One word in a long championship like this that can define your entire season: momentum. And today, Cook has lost his momentum.
Yeah, I don't know if this is where he's lost his momentum. I know towards the tail end of the 16th Street Racing League, he started having a lot of bad luck as well, and a lot of issues finishing races and running well, so it may just carrying the string on for that. I'm not really sure, but it's definitely, unlike Matt, to be driving the way he has been, having the results he has been.
So Cookie is out of the race, and in fact we are going to get a word with him right now. Matt Cook, disappointing into your race. 2 bad starts and 2 bad races just kick off your first ever ISOWC IndyCar campaign. Take us through what happened in your race.
The start of the race was actually a lot of fun. You know, we were battling out, everything was going good, and then unfortunately I made the silly decision to go down into the hairpin, try and get on the inside of Andreas Werner. And doing so, I locked up the brakes just as we were entering the corner, and I slid into the side of him. In the process, I believe I knocked out my front toe, damaged the wing, and maybe a little bit of suspension damage, and the car just never drove the same after that.
And let's just talking about momentum. We had a good run in 16th Street Racing League, a difficult run so far in the ISOWC IndyCar Series, and of course this was the race back in 16th Street where you had a couple of issues. I remember that first lap contact with Courtney Tell, and then you having to come through the field. You get some good finish in that race, however, with still 3 road courses in a row before we go back to your hollow grounds of ovals. What do you do now to really restart your championship season, knowing that there are drop weeks involved, knowing that you can put these races to one side and start again? How do you kind of regroup after 2 bad results in a row?
Well, I mean, like, it's never really over until the series is complete, so I mean, there's always a chance to come back. These will be drop weeks, without a doubt, and it's unfortunate that it happened at the start of the season, but, you know, I'm here, I'm having fun, I'm looking forward to finishing off the rest of the season, and I'm sure that if luck swings my way again, then I'll be able to do it.
Well, unfortunate times there for Matt Cook in that number 66 ROX racing car. We've got a little bit of smoke on the racetrack. We'll figure out what that is in a moment's time. But, Scott, momentum, it's always that key word. Sometimes it can go your way, sometimes it can't go your way. We see it in the RS and WCS, we see it in all series, and I mean, let's not forget, you know, Elio Castroneves, he had good momentum in the middle part of last season, just kind of disappeared from in the tail end. And you need the entire picture, really, to get a championship together, because coming back from behind can be difficult.
It's all well and good being a very quick driver, but of course in some cases it's just luck of the draw. I mean, you get drawn into incidents that really aren't your fault, or you get technical problems which really just can take away crucial points or crucial finishes which you really do need to help keep your consistency and, as you said, the momentum in the championship fight. So, I mean, it's all about just basically just doing the best job you can and making just obviously taking the rough with the smooth, because trust me, obviously the drivers that are able to overcome the roughest parts of their season, it'll enable them to allow them to savour the sweeter parts even better. It'll make them even sweeter, because of course they'll look back at the end of the season and thought, you know, I had a couple of rough races, it could have been all over, I could have packed it in, but I kept strong, and actually as a result of that I actually had some really good string of races which got me back into the championship hunt, and eventually I was successful, and so effectively it makes it all worthwhile. So these guys, I'm sure, hopefully are headstrong enough to, you know, get over a bad day. Of course it is going to sting for a couple of days afterwards, but of course, you know, end of the day, you know, the quicker they can get over it, the quicker they can refocus on the next race to get themselves a better result. So it's just all about how quick you can recover for it. Just on a quick side note as well, I've just been on board with for the past couple of laps with Istvan Balov, who's been battling with Michael de Jong over 5th position. They've been very close together between each other, and less than a second separates them. In fact, the gap is now about 0.6 of a second as they make their way down towards turn 1. Balov's been closing in, but of course in the twisty sections just hasn't been able to get the power done, especially on the exit turn 4 and 5 where he's been getting over the curb a little bit too much. But he's definitely in there, and they're both also hunting their Robert Gross in the 13 car 4th position. So these three are in a nice little fight, the best of the rest in 4th position.
We will run through the field in just one moment's time. Don't forget, immediately before each of the ISOWC World Championship Grand Prix Series races, RaceSpotTV presents WCS Spotlight. Join myself, Will Vincent, along Scott Woodwitz and Nick Croland as we go through all of the events of the previous iRacing WCS race, as well as big name driver and team interviews, and look forward to the race as well with up-to-date information, news and analysis. That is RaceSpotTV presented WCS Spotlight Show, 1 PM GMT, before each of the ISOWC World Championship Grand Prix races, exclusively live on RaceSpotTV. And now, Scott, it's time to run through the field, powered by Armed Werner Design. Michael Dinkle in that number 10 car, just been phenomenal since the drop of the green flag here today. He's been able to get himself now a 13.3 second lead, and he is driving away once again, commanding since the drop of the green flag.
Really has fantastic performance so far from Dinkle, of course. Second at the moment, he's been training with the 15 car. He's 13.3 seconds back. He's had a couple of problems going forwards, but of course he really has been headstrong. Got himself out of the traffic behind Andres Werner and has just absolutely pushed hard. So second place for him has been awesome. And behind him, of course, some 6 seconds back, Chad Peterson in the number 37 car. He's getting around lap traffic at the moment, but he himself has been involved in 1 or 2 incidents moving forwards, but really good stuff as he heads on to the next part of the race as they head forwards. But yeah, great stuff for the top 3, but it's all action at the moment in the top 4th, 5th and 6th as they're battling hard over those best of the rest positions.
Second place is Brandon Traino in the number 15 Broken Arrow machine. He's got Chad Peterson behind him by about 6 seconds on the racetrack in the second Broken Arrow machine. Right now, those 2 Broken Arrow drivers had a good start to the race on a slightly different strategy. We expect to see them on pit road in the next 4 laps time at maximum, as they are on that early 2-stop strategy. 4th place right now, Shenworth. Robert Grosser is pulling away just a little bit from Michael De Jong as he continues his battle with Esteban Balao in the battle for the 5th position.
Yeah, Gross has been having a good run up there in the top 5 in most of the days. He's got to stay consistent, and he'll be up there and he'll have himself a good result.
And then, say, behind Michel De Jong and Esteban Balao, they continue to battle on the racetrack, our closest battle on the racetrack right now. P7 is Nigel Marnoff. He had an incident early on, however, is back running in the 7th position on the racetrack. Behind them, teammate Inisomi in that number 3 car, Scott, has really had everything in this race today. He's had spins, he's had almost crashed, he's had to avoid drama, and he's had great battles as he's right behind Nigel Marnoff in battling for P7.
I mean, everything that's happened in this race really has been a case of, been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt. He really has been all over the place today, but currently running in 8th place and battling Marnie over that 7th place. Running well at the moment, of course, up there in the bottom of the top 10. Hopefully, as we come towards the end of the race, if he can find a bit of turn of pace, might even start to try and pull away from Marnie if he can. But of course, trying to catch the trio battling over 4 is going to be a really tough order, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. So for now, his incentive is going to be to try and get past Marnie, and as I say that, he has a nice little toe down the back straight where you'll be able to make a move into Sunset Bend. He's up, pull to the right if he's got a chance to. Pulls alongside with 069 Nigel Marnie. Marnie gives him room up the inside. Lovely little pass into 7th place. Job done.
And then rounding out your top 10 is Brendan Lichtenberg and then Pierre Bourdon. Bourdon currently classified as the last of the drivers on the lead lap. Brett Fisher and Nigel Martinez, they are 11th and 12th right now. And these 2 guys have had a bit of a battle earlier on in the race. It's closed down for the time being. P13, Tim Miller. P14 is John Porte. 15th is Terry Martinson. 16th, Ryan Murray. Martin H. Kirkin in 17th. Xavier Ibora on pit road in 18th. Dave Jinks in 19th. And then Eric Davis rounds out your top 20. And that is our Through the Field presented by Arndt Warner Designs here on RaceSpotTV, as we're now onto lap number 30 even of 42 in this, the 4th round of the championship. We have a spin also. That is Pierre Bourdon. He had an issue on the racetrack as here comes Brandon Traino onto pit road, and Chad Peterson is going to follow him once again onto pit road. Scott, second pit stop start with the Broken Arrow drivers.
Yeah, and these guys, of course, will get into pits now, will form sequence. So, of course, Traino, of course, will stop first, Peterson second. It's going to be the battle of the pit crew to see exactly which one of these 2 Broken Arrow cars gets out first. Of course, you'd have to say the safe bet would probably be with Traino, as he was in first, obviously. But we'll see as the rest of the field starts to stream past the pits at the moment. And let's see. So, very key for these guys to see just where exactly Traino's going to filter out. Not too much traffic around. but exit of pit road, and Trainer looks like he's going to quickly head back out. And he's going to get out just in front, or not in fact, he's let him go. So that's trying to work out which car that is that's just letting him through. I think that's Terry Matinson, number 8. So Matinson is out, so he's come back out in, effectively on the road at least, he is back out in 14th position at this point. But of course, we've still got the second round of stops, provided anyone else is going to stop, of course, in front of him, which I'm pretty sure the majority will. And they are going to make their second stop sometime soon for their final sprint towards the final 12 or 13 laps of this race. So of course we can see that Peterson's got himself out in front as well. But the difference between him and Trainer, he's got a ton of traffic, 3 cars in there. In fact, actually, he's come out, I believe, if I'm correct, behind. I think possibly that is that the battle for 4th. It is the battle for 4th place. He's actually come back out on the pit stops. He's actually worked out. He's actually lost out 3rd place, and he is now having to do all the work himself to try and get himself to get past them. But surely these 3 guys are going to have to make their second stop sometime soon in the next few laps, provided they're not one stopping.
Indeed they do, yeah. So these guys are likely all on a 2-stop strategy. They came onto pit road about lap 16, 17 and 18. So they are going to likely each have to make a second pit stop. However, for Peterson, he knows he's faster than those drivers. And by the way, Terry Matinson is scored a lap down. So that wasn't a battle for position with Trainer and Terry Matinson. But Peterson, this is for position. And Chenoweth, you know that you're faster than the cars ahead, but they're running this close. You can't take them all at once. You've got to take them one at a time. These guys are racing tooth and nail, knowing they've got to take every opportunity possible. You see, they really are kind of weaving down the back straightaway there. I'm sure the ISOWC race control will have a little bit of a word with them after the race for that one. But Peterson's got to try and take them one at a time. That can be difficult.
Yeah, and in fact, if I were him with pit stops coming up probably in the next few laps for them, I would probably just sit there and wait. It's not really worth the risk trying to pass them all. For the slight gain you'll get, yeah, you'll feel like you lose a little bit less time, but in actuality, with the time you lose actually passing cars, it'll probably end up working out the same way if you just sit there and wait and don't risk going side by side somewhere or running into the back of someone or something like that.
And I'll tell you what, Esteban Bala did try and line up Michel De Jong. He gets a very good run out of turn number 4 as they work themselves down towards the hairpin. Through turn number 5, the flat out corner. Will he be close enough to dive himself down to the inside? He's going to look once again, but he's been very early on the brakes into this corner. Has been Esteban Bala. He's not been able to get the job done so far in this race. It is Grosser from De Jong, from Bala. These 3 drivers are bustling it out tooth and nail. Peterson is out there behind him. And I think Chenoweth makes a good point there, Scott, because these drivers, you know, they are going to have to pit again. Peterson just needs to keep his nose clean. Yes, he's going to lose time, but really, the only person he needs to worry about is Robert Grosser, who's actually ahead of him by just a second on the racetrack. He knows that he's likely going to get 3rd position, and he knows he's not quite close enough to really attack Traino.
Well, the thing at this point, of course, I've seen the situation before. Effectively, someone's on a different strategy, or someone has at least kind of pitted several laps before somebody's supposed to do, or someone's actually running a stop less, for example. The smart thing to do is just to hold back a little bit, just let these guys kind of scrap amongst themselves and not get too caught in, because it's so easy to get into a situation where the guy who's at the front of the train has a bit of a mistake. Everyone checks up behind him. Effectively, if you're up there trying to get past these guys when you know that they're all on a different strategy, I'm looking on board now with Chad Peterson. These 3 cars, if one of them messes up in front, the other 2 are going to have to. In fact, he's getting himself into a situation he really doesn't need to be, because he's actually trying to get up the inside of Esteban Baloff. He needs to sit back and hold on. Now, of course, that sounds counterproductive, but if these guys have to start to pit again, of course, there's no point trying to battle them. You should need to sit there, let them battle amongst themselves, give them a bit more of a gap, and then once they have pitted, he'll have much more clear air. But look at all the traffic in front. There's about 6 cars in front of him, 3 laps cars, and 3 battle covers.
Wow!
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you. As we were going into turn 1,
Peterson clips the rear wing there of Esteban Bala. Sorry to interrupt you there. There's lap traffic involved in that as well. That is Brett Fisher. The cars all really packed together. That's the one thing that Peterson did not want to do. Just trying to see if there's any front wing damage. No, there isn't. Just slight contact there between those 2 drivers. Carry on there, Chenoweth.
Okay, I was going to say, as we were going into turn 1 that lap, there was a big incident between John Forzik and someone else.
We'll get ourselves a replay of that in just 1 minute's time. There was quite a lot of smoke on the front trailer, and now John Porzek is classified as out of the race. He's actually running side by side with his teammate Eric Davis, and Porzek actually clipped the wall. That's what happened to him. He just actually clipped the wall, and that speared him left across the racetrack. And that was something really crazy there.
Oh! Pete's Balla's on the grass. Oh, he spun! Half spins, catches it, but just to go back to the point of Patton.
And then someone else spun, the 2 cars spun behind him as well.
Yeah, that's Brett Fisher on the racetrack who spun it, but the important thing out of that is Esteban Bala, who's fallen well down from these drivers. And that was an incident that started about couple of corners ago, and these guys were running too
De
wide,
Jong's
almost
wide.
too deep on the racetrack. And you see that they're almost actually at one point ran 3 wide. We'll get ourselves a replay of it once this battle calms down just a little bit. So they actually had to go 3 wide with Dave Jinx. They went 3 wide there, and then it was actually Balor who caught Jinx in the center of that train, and that is what put him towards the rear of that field. But crazy racing continuing to go on in this mid-pack, Scott.
And that's exactly what I said. I just had I was mentioning it. Chad Payson was getting involved in a situation he didn't need to get involved in. He could have easily avoided that if he just sat back a little bit. Yes, the natural racer would have come at him and said, look, we want to attack, we want to try and get past them. But if he knows these guys are going to be spitting sometime soon, possibly to make a quick splash and dash towards the end, there was no need to try and get past him. He was basically taking risks that just weren't necessary. And of course, as a result, hits the back of somebody and of course then puts himself in a situation where he's greatly compromised and loses time and possibly positions. I can't understand what Chad's ethos was on trying to make that move and being that close. And really, there was no need for it.
Indeed, but it has kind of settled down for the time being. And of course, unlike the ISOWC World Championship Grand Prix Series, there are no blue flag rules in effect in the ISOWC IndyCar Series. The rulebook does state that you have to allow opportunities for drivers to get past you and not overly block them. But Peterson and Grosser continue their battle. Istvan Balor is only 3 seconds behind us, and that last time try did a 1 minute 52.485. Just trying to see how much damage there is to Balor's car. I don't see much there at all. Peterson is only a couple of cars ahead on the racetrack, but for Balor, he's got to get himself past a little bit of lap traffic. Terry McKenzie, he's just going to breeze past him as they come down into the chicane once again. Then it's Michael De Jong, actually, who's going to be catching first. De Jong is only about 7 tenths per second ahead on the racetrack right now, but Peterson now, he's down to just 1 car to overtake. That is Robert Grosser. That actually kind of makes Peterson's life a little bit easier now, Finley.
Oh, definitely just knowing that there's just 1 car between you and where you were. Like I said though, if I were Peterson, I would just try and cruise. There's no need to force anything. I don't believe Grosser's made his stop yet.
He hasn't, no.
Yeah, so what Peterson needs to do here is he needs to calm. He needs to not do anything stupid, which he was trying to do. He
does it there as well, down to the inside in turn number 1. And he does get the job done there over Grosser. And I think Grosser saw it right in the centre of the corner and said, okay, I'm just going to run the outside line. I don't want to throw away what will essentially be a net 4th place finish. So good heads up driving there by Grosser, but aggressive driving, fast driving there as Istvan Balor comes onto pit road to make what will be his final pit stop. Eric Davis comes out of pit road just ahead of him, but he's scored laps down in this race. So Balor now is needing to go on the charge. I think he wanted to get a little bit of separation between these 2 drivers ahead of him, just try and get himself ahead. And there you see Eric Davis allowing Balor to go past him as soon as they got past the commitment cone there, so he can merge back out onto the racetrack. Balor is back into race mode, and he now is scored down towards the rear of the top 10. But the big fight will continue between Robert Grosser and Michael De Jong, because right now there's only about 1.5 seconds separating them on the racetrack, and their pit stop will be in the next 2 laps time, Scott.
Absolutely, that's when we're going to see a real battle picture to see exactly who's going to possibly take track position between these 2. Of course, De Jong has been had a couple of off-track moments in the recent few laps, and of course Grosser's had to deal with trying to battle with Peterson, and for the moment he has lost out, but he is pushing hard to try and make sure that he doesn't lose too much time as they head down the Ullman Straight. And now it's going to be a case of who exactly is going to blink first, and obviously is one driver going to take advantage of pitting before the other, try and get an undercut? Will they pit at the same time to counteract each other? Let's see what happens then. So Chad Peters is going to head through Sunset Bend. Of course, he doesn't have to pit. He's all done for today's stops. He's going to carry on to the end of the race. De Jong, he decides to carry on, and so does Robert Grosser. So all 3 of them carrying on for another lap. So I'll probably expect that they're going to come in for a quick splash and dash in the next couple of laps' time. If not this time, the next couple of laps at least. Because, of course, surely the fuel tanks can't be big enough to manage that. Mind you, though, Michael Dinkel at the front, we've almost forgotten about him, has almost almost a minute lead. But I believe possibly he's also in the same situation as Grosser and De Jong. The fact that he's not actually has to make a pit stop, or did he has possibly?
He hasn't yet made his second pit stop. He does need to make his second pit stop, but still that will be about a 25-30 second lead on the racetrack. Dinkel really has been flying. Let's not forget, Trainer had to go past a little bit of traffic after he made his second pit stop as well. And I think now that Trainer knows that second place is about all he can achieve in this race, he's kind of turn that wick down just a little bit, as we are now less than 10 laps to go in this, the second round of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series, powered by iRacefly.org. The next time we'll be on air review on RaceSpotTV will be on the 26th of April. That will be the 4th round of the championship at what will be the ISOWC Indy Grand Prix of Alabama. 67 laps around the Barber Motorsports Park. That will be on the 26th of April 2014 as RaceSpotTV Super Saturday with the ISO.com World Championship Grand Prix Series and ISOWC doubleheader returns once again. Dinkel in that 10 car, working himself on lap number 36. We expect him to come into pit road this lap because last time he went to about lap number 18 in the race. We expect him to do exactly lap number 18. And Chenoweth, this is what you said earlier. His second stop now, all he needs to do, doesn't need to take tyres, just top up about 4 gallons of gas, he's good to go.
Yep, you don't need to take much fuel here. On this second stop, one person I am watching though is Brendan Lichtenberg. He pit later than anyone, and he's been running compared to where he qualified in the pace I would expect he's been running about 2 seconds per lap slower than that, and I think he might have been fuel saving this one time. I think we have a potential one-stopper here.
We do, and let's not forget, in 16th Street Racing League competition, Randy, we did see some drivers able to do the one-stop strategy, and that all comes down to downforce levels. Now, these cars are set up very differently. Some of them will try and run a higher downforce setup, which means they're faster on the infield section of the racetrack, but a little bit more difficult on the straightaways as these cars now come into pit road. Michael Dinkel and Lichtenberg also onto pit road. So Lichtenberg's one stop, that's completely out the window, as also Michael Dinkel comes onto pit road as well. But very quickly, Chenoweth, talk about the 2 different approaches you can take with downforce levels here, because it make a big difference of fuel flow consumption.
It kind of depends what you're wanting to do. Sebring, there's a lot of fast corners. You got turn 17, you got turn 1. A lot of corners where downforce really does help you. But like you said, you don't want to get into where you're doing too much because it really does hurt your fuel flow. If you're in a situation where the race isn't a fuel saver, that fuel flow really isn't that big of an issue because you're doing the same amount of stops anyways. Personally, I'm generally a bigger fan of running the higher downforce and being quicker through the fast corners at most tracks than most situations. But that's just me. I know some people do run the lower downforce, but a lot of times it just comes straight down to preference, to be honest.
And that can say it can make a big difference, and we saw it in 16 Street Racing League competition that it was worth between a lap, in some cases a lap and a half worth of fuel, and it was a big difference maker with Tim Holgate as he went on to take victory in that race in 16 Street Racing League competition. Of course, RaceSpotTV is the official broadcast partner of the 16 Street Racing League. That will be back this fall 2014 as they prepare for their season after ISOWC competition ends. Dinkel is in traffic. He's actually still got Lichtenberg ahead of him. Lichtenberg doesn't want to go down a lap here, I don't think, Scott.
No, he's quite defiant to stay on the lead lap, but the fact is, of course, because there's no blue flags, Dinkel can't really complain about it unless he really does purposely hold him up. So all he can really do is look for an opportune place to try and get through. But of course, this is going to have to be careful here because we're in that tight, twisty section. It's quite a high-speed part of the course at near the end of the lap, of course. We've got a nice run there out of Le Mans corner into the Ullman Straight. He heads through right now. Let's see, so he will get a tow down the back straight here. He's moving around just to put himself into his mirrors, just to make sure to let him know, I am here, I do need to get past. He moves out again to just let Brendan know he's here. And this time Brendan does, I think, indeed go wide, or does he? No, he doesn't. No. He's very defiant, letting go of that track position and going a lap down. So I'm not quite sure Michael will appreciate it. Now he does eventually move over, yes. I'm not sure why he couldn't have done that in the middle of the corner, but at Sunset Bend, but rather on a straight than anything else. But I'm quite confused as to why he decided to do that there when he could have done it on the back straight through the last corner. Rather confusing.
Maybe I have seen a lot of people have issues with turn 17, and Brendan may have been worried about having that happen in front of him. I know I've had it happen to me. Let someone through, and then they'll be right in front of you, and they'll get upset on the bumps, and they'll lose the car. And now you're trying to avoid someone. Sometimes it's just a little better just to hold them up.
To run through your top 10, Michael Dinkel still leads the gap between himself and Brandon Traynor. Well, that is 27 seconds on the racetrack. Chad Peterson is running in the 3rd position. He is a further 8 seconds back. He lost quite a lot of time, actually, in that scrap with Grosso, De Jong, etc. And you almost have to say there, Chenoweth, that had Peterson not been involved in that, he would have been about a second, maybe a second and a half behind Brandon Traynor, because looking at his lap times, he was losing 2, maybe 3 seconds a lap while those guys were scrapping. Yeah,
exactly. That's why I was definitely unlucky to come out behind them. And then when he started fighting with them, and he may even have damage because there was that contact in turn 4, so he may actually have hurt his car trying to being a bit impatient.
Imasumi runs in the 5th position. Robert Grosser is ahead of him. The battles have all kind of calmed down though, but you still got the one between Istvan Barrow, who's trying to recover on the racetrack, Scott, and he is closing down Michael de Jong. The gap between those two drivers, well, that is just about 6 tenths of a second on the racetrack. And as I said earlier, Istvan Barrow, a former ISOWC road course champion, he's been phenomenal in this series before. In fact, won an overall championship at one point, and he really is looking strong in this race. But tough first round to his season. He took a bit of time off in 2013 campaign, back here racing in 2014. He's had a kind of up and down day. Not really his fault though.
No, I think he's done well to try and recover up to this point. Of course, he's up now in 7th place behind De Jong. I think in some cases, if he continues to close like this, he may even be saying under his comment, "Come on, Mikey, you might want to get a move on because I might want to overtake you and grab 6th place." But it's all about getting around the lap traffic, and they're doing so right now as one of the cars moves out the way. Whoa! Wasn't so courteous. That was the 76 of Dave Jinks. Wasn't so courteous there for Balluff, and almost caused an avoidable incident, but thankfully it was avoided. And now Ballott's still just closing in once again. Now, he looks pretty quick through this section here on the one. In fact, I think it's actually, with whatever reason, De Jong's run's been compromised through there, because now this gives Ballot a nice little run onto the back straight here. He might not close quick enough to warrant a pass into Sunset Bend, but he might be close enough possibly if he sticks through the final corner to have a run down the pit straight. We'll wait and see here as they pitch it into the long right-hander. Very bumpy, of course, as we know it's a very bumpy corner going across the concrete. And let's see now. He is pretty close. Runs a little bit wider to show he's carrying more speed out of the final corner. But no, not this time. He's just not close enough to warrant a dive, unless he does a rather stupendous dive bomb, which is not going to work in any sense. No, he doesn't. So he's still got a couple laps to do it, but of course time is running out. Of course, he's on 4 laps to go, including the one they're on. So Ball's going to have to get a move on here if he wants to get past the Jolly. So he'll have to do it in the next couple of laps. Otherwise, he'll have to settle for 7th place, and that's it.
Yeah, this could be his good chance coming out of turn number 4, but Bala has traditionally been very early onto the brakes down into the hairpin, which is where they're coming once again. He is again a little bit too far back, and that dirty air really does affect the drivers through that complex section of the racetrack through turn 2, 3 and 4. Bala actually running very wide there through the hairpin channel width, and that's what he didn't want to do, because it's this section of the racetrack where Bala is far superior to De Jong ahead of him.
Yeah, definitely. You're talking about the arrow. That arrow also helps a lot going into the hairpin on the brake. When the car, as the car gets slowed down, obviously you got to come off the brake pedal because less and less arrow. And being behind a car, you get that same effect. You got to brake a little bit earlier, and it's easier to lock the front. But he just needs to stay calm, stay cool, try to get under his gearbox, and make a move at some point here in the next couple laps.
And behind them, the battles have really calmed down now. Nigel Narnoff is running in the 8th position. Lichtenberg in 9th. Tim Miller, a good showing by him, running inside the top 10. Pierre Baudot in 11th. Mertinson in 12th. Brett Fisher in the 13th. Martin Nakel-Kirkin in 14th. Miguel Angel Martinez in 15th. Xavier Ibora in 16th. Dave Jink 17th. David in the 18th position.
Going up the inside.
Yeah, here he comes.
And he's going to get the job done.
I think De Jong's going to have a chance to cut back under him here.
Yeah, and that would be... Oh, Ballo gets a little bit sideways out of the final corner then. Here comes De Jong back down the inside as they come down into turn number 1. De Jong will have the optimal line. Let's see if he can swing across. The answer is going to be yes, he will. He does get clear into that first corner. Will Ballo be able to once again attack? He's not going to be close enough down into turn number 2. Ballo made the move. They've got 3 laps to go, including this one on the racetrack, Genworth. But Ballo made that move, but now De Jong knows where he's going to come again. If you're going to make a move there, you've got to make it stick. But Ballo, as close as he's ever been through turn number 5, now he's got the chance to really get in that toe. He's going to potentially go to the outside because De Jong goes defensive. He can make one move. Ballo is going to try and go around the outside. He's been a little bit wide here before, not able to get the job done, Randy.
Yeah, that move down in turn 17, that's a very risky place to do it with the way the bumps are, because if you get it wrong, generally you lose a whole bunch of time. And we almost saw that. Ballo was able to hold on to it and keep close to him. He just has to stay calm. If he starts getting nervous and starts thinking, I have to do it now, he'll start making mistakes and he'll never get the job done. He just has to stay calm and just, at the best opportunity, whenever it comes, he just needs to make his move.
Although, Scott, as the famous band Muse will say, time is running out. And how did we come to this with just 2 laps to go? Istvan Bauer really is putting on the pressure, and De Jong is looking more rugged than he has done the last couple of laps as well.
Well, it was right here a lap ago where actually De Jong actually lost the backhand a little bit, and that's what put Ballard right onto his rear wing, which caused the whole sequence of overtakes to happen. This point though, De Jong's run off Le Mans corner onto the Ulmann straight is a lot cleaner as they turn into Sunset Bend for the 40th time out of 42. So this stands a chance for Ballard to try and close again. He won't be close enough to make a pass into turn 1. He will close, but just not to the point where he's able to dive it up the inside. So he's going to have to think again and try and just stay there and force De Jong into another mistake as they head through the first corner once again and back onto the narrowness, kicking up a little bit of dust as Ballard, and also takes out a cone in the process, spews it onto the grass on the outside of the circuit through turns 2, 3 and 4. And Ballard again, not as close as he was last time on the exit here of turn 4 through turn 5, but he's certainly pushing to try and keep with him. But De Jong's got his foot down as well. He knows effectively he's to try and gap him as quickly as possible before the end of this race. Maybe the incentive of Grosser in front might be helping with that one.
Meanwhile, the right flag is in hand now for Michael Dinkel. He has got 1 lap left to go in this race. The driver for Club Diat down into turn number 2 for the final time. He has just been absolutely dominant in this race since the drop of the green flag to start the first road race of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series campaign. The battle will continue between Ballard and De Jong, but teammate Isomi makes a pit stop with 1 lap to go in this race. That will drop him all the way down into the 7th place on the racetrack. Ballard isn't quite close enough as they work themselves down into the chicane for the final time. He really needs to get going. He's going to make a move. He's got to be right on the rear as they come out of the Mont corner. He's nowhere near close enough. Potentially, Ballard is going to have to settle for the 6th position, kicking up a lot of dirt there. Michel De Jong there in that number 5 car, but Ballard is kind of slowed down now to about 7 tenths of a second back. He's going to have a lot of work to do in the last lap of this race. For Michael Dinkel now, here he comes into the final sector for the final time. Just a handful of corners left to go for him as he comes down into the chicane for the final time. As I say, he's just been absolutely dominant in this race all race long. He has a half a minute advantage over Brandon Traynor, who right now runs in the 2nd position in that number 15 car. Chad Peterson in the 3rd place, but for Michael Dinkel, he will come down into Sunset Bend for the final time. Welcome to ISOWC Victory Lane. Michael Dinkel for the first time as he comes out of Sunset Bend. He is a winner in the ISOWC IndyCar Series for the first time, and what a way to do it. An absolutely dominant performance in that number 10 car. Behind him, Traynor is going to come down towards the back straightaway for the final time. We are keeping half an eye out on that battle for 5th position because Ballard is still close to De Jong, but got very loose there for the hairpin, and that could be his chance of getting 5th position done. Brandon Traynor comes out of Sunset Bend. He will take 2nd place there for Broken Arrow in that number 15 car as he returns to the ISOWC IndyCar Series. He gets a well-deserved 2nd place in that Make-A-Wish Foundation car. Chad Peterson coming down into the final corner for the final time as there is a car, I believe, out of fuel. That is Miguel Angel Martinez. He's very slow and he has run out of fuel in the final corner of the final lap. Chad Peterson will come home in the 3rd position. Martinez is out of fuel and losing positions right now. Robert Grosser onto the back straightaway for the final time. How close is Ballard to De Jong? The answer is nowhere near close enough. Grosser into Sunset Bend for the final time. He will take 4th position in this race with De Jong. 1 more corner and he will finish himself in the top 5. Ballard gets a good run out of the corner. It could be a run to the flag. We've seen this before, but Ballard is not quite going to be close enough. It's going to be mighty close. Just 2 tenths of a second there between those 2 drivers after exactly 2 tenths of a second after 42 laps of racing. Nigel Manarf will come home in the 8th position, the last car classified on the lead lap. Scott, what a result there for Michael Dinkel as he goes to ISOWC Victory Lane for the first time.
Well, we called it, didn't we? The pace he showed in practice and qualifying, of course, he really was dominant, and he's shown that dominance once again in the race. You give him a sniff of clean track and a chance to run away with this race, and he just absolutely took it, and he absolutely ran away with it. He had a lead of almost up to a minute before he made his final stops. It just shows just how quick and how dominant his pace was and how incredibly just ruthless he was with just pumping in those quick lap times and extending the gap to Brandon
So then, Michael Dinkel.
I think Traynor, what caused it with him was getting stuck behind Andres all the time in the beginning. Michael Dinkel obviously, like I said, Michael Dinkel of course the winner, but Brandon Traynor in 2nd place, just to mention him as well. I think what did it for him was the fact that he got stuck behind Andres in the early parts. He didn't dispatch him quick enough because, of course, Andres Werner did cause a few problems. Obviously, compromises some people's races because of the fact of his pace compared to others. But yeah, I mean, as for Michael Dinkel, I mean, you can't really fault the driver. There was nothing he did wrong. His pit stops were faultless. His work through traffic was absolutely brilliant. His start was great. No, it didn't put a foot wrong, and that's a fully well-deserved and well-earned first ISOWC victory for him.
So then, we'll run through your final race results from this, the second round of the 2014 ISOWC IndyCar Series, powered by iRaceForLife.org and Warner Designs, and also the Will and Dave Show. Michael Dinkel comes home in a time of 1 hour 14 minutes 19 seconds by 31 seconds over Brandon Traino in second place for Broken Arrow. Chad Peterson in third, Robert Grosjean in fourth place, Michael De Jong in fifth, holding off Esteban Ballo in those last couple of laps. Timo Minasami in the seventh position, Nigel Marnoff in eighth, Brandon Lichtenberg in ninth, Tim Miller rounds out your top 10. Pierre Bourdon 11th, Terry Matinson in 12th, Brett Fisher in the 13th position, Martin Kirkin in 14th, Xavier Ibora in 15th, Miguel Angel Martinez in the 16th position, and then it's Eric Davis, Dave Jinks, John Porter, Rene Murray who rounds out your top 20. Rest of the results up on your screen in just 1 moment's time. Who is your driver of the race, Randy Shenworth?
I'm going to give it to Michael Dinkel. Won by a 30-second margin. I'm going to go with the easy one this time. Normally I try to be creative, but I don't feel like being creative today. I'll leave that to you and Scott.
Oh, that was nice, quick and simple. Scott?
Yeah, do you know what? So, apologies to being boring, but I have to go with Dinkel as well. I mean, like I said, he didn't put a wheel wrong. I mean, his pace all across the weekend was just absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, for a drive like that, you can't not give him driver of the day for that. It was absolutely flawless.
And we are going to start by talking to a couple of drivers, and we are going to start with the guy who came home in the second position, Mr. Brandon Traino. Well done, second place in your return to ISOWC competition.
Yeah, I got to thank all the guys at Broken Arrow, and congrats to Chad Peterson for helping finish out that podium. We took 2 out of the 3 spots. I mean, the car was on rails, but Mike was just a little bit quicker down the straightaways, so that's ultimately where he got me.
Now, good start to your race there. 3 wide down into turn 1. How crazy was that?
Yeah, that was a little hectic. I wasn't expecting Matt to try to make that move. I told Chad that Matt's on me inside, so he's like, all right, I'm going to back out of it. And then I guess Matt thought wiser and backed out of it too, so we got through turn 1 clean. After
that, moderately good race for you. You did fall off in the rear of Michael Dinkel after you were able to get yourself up into that second position, but I mean, you didn't have to pace for him, but really good to see you back in ISOWC competition with a strong result overall. Yeah, I'm happy with the result we got. It was a lot of fun, and I definitely think I'm going to come back for the next races. Of course, the next round of the championship will be in Long Beach in 2 weeks' time, but well done, Brandon Traino, second place for you. We'll talk to your race winner in just 1 moment's time, but first of all, we'll talk to his Broken Arrow teammate, Chad Peterson. You've had yourself a very good race here today, pretty much faultless, and again, involved in some very good battles at the start. Last part of the race, however, very interesting for you.
Yeah, I don't think I'd call it faultless quite. It was a good first run. We tried something different with the fuel strategy that didn't seem to work out too well. And the setup just loved to burn off the rear tires. So the second and third run, by the time you get to the last 5-6 laps, it just felt like a sprint car.
And
it was fun.
It was fun. It was fun to see, actually, especially with that lap traffic and that crazy battle towards the third stint of that race. But you guys pitted earlier than Dinkel ahead of you, and you kind of went on to the, let's put it into 2/3 rather than the heavier fuel load at the beginning. In reflection, was that the right call for you guys to do?
I don't know that we could have caught Dinkel either way with the fuel load we were running. The only other strategy was to run more, and we were barely keeping up with him, or kind of holding station for the first run on lower fuel. So I think what we did didn't hurt us too much, but I don't know that it helped any.
Well done. Third place to you. And when you get 1 Broken Arrow driver, you get 3 of them. We'll talk to the third one here as well. Brendan Lichtenberg. Crazy, interesting, confusing race for you today.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely getting a lot of spots from incidents. I knew it was going to be a long race, and definitely knew I was consistent, not really fast. I was running 146s most of the run, maybe even 147s, but definitely happy to bring home a top 10. That's what I was shooting for today.
You got yourself into the top 10. However, were you expecting a little bit more from that race? You had the pace in some ways to really get yourself into that battle for the 4th, 5th, 6th positions.
It was possible, but I also wanted to just keep it on the track. I didn't want to push too hard, and just want to get a good points day.
And before we let you Broken Arrow drivers go, in unison, who would you like to thank?
Gotta thank Pizza Hut for keeping Ryan Norton away.
Anyone else?
Well, the GT Roast guys who made the IndyCar setups, that's what I ran with today, and they're really good setups, and should go try them out, I guess.
Well done there. Broken Arrow today, P2, P3, and P9 in this race. We will, however, talk to your race winner. Michael Dinkle, welcome to ISOWC Victory Lane.
Well, yes. It's amazing, you know. Never expected it before because I was racing the SOF races on Friday, and I had every bad luck you can possibly get, and today it worked out. It's so cool.
And, I mean, you were just absolutely dominant in this race. Practice, dominant. Qualifying, dominant. Race, dominant. And, I mean, it just seems to be that I talked to a couple of the drivers about this before the race, that compared to the soft race, different track conditions, some people struggled in the soft race, good here. Some people were good in the soft race, really have struggled here. Take us through the differences in how that's really kind of played in to how you've prepared for this race.
Well, first of all, I noticed when you race the SD soft setup, the car is understeering quite a lot because there's so much heat in the atmosphere, and therefore the tires are overheating quite rapidly. So I adjusted the setup a little bit, and what I expect to compensate the understeer, most of the drivers, I believed, soften the front of the car, but it increases the heating of the front and will also cause more understeer. So I stiffened the back of the car, and it worked so well. I was able to race consistent lap times, which was my goal, and I think that was the key. So stiffen the back of the car was the key for me to race such consistent lap times.
Not only consistent, but consistently fast lap times. So absolutely dominant performance in your first race in ISOWC competition on the road course. Now, 3 other road courses in a row. Which one do you think out of the next 3, Long Beach, Barber, or Indianapolis, do you think you're going to be the best at?
Well, I have to say I never raced the 3 races you mentioned before, so I cannot say what's going to happen there. Let's see, and I don't know. Is Long Beach next? I think so. So we will see what's happening there. I don't know.
And before we let you go, anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
My internet connection, that it's not broken up.
Well, thank you very much to whichever internet connection that is, who's allowed Michael Dinkle to go to ISOWC Victory Lane. Great result by him. Driver who came home in the 4th position, Robert Grosser. What a crazy race you had, especially that second half. It was kind of nail-biting for you the entire time.
Yeah, I'm totally exhausted right now. So many pressure from Michael. It was unbelievable.
Now, take us through your race, because you started in that number 13 car in the 9th position, got yourself a good line from the grid, able to get yourself up a couple of positions, then had some great battles with the likes of Balal, who was able to use a little bit of attrition, get yourself into that 4th place. But at the end of it, you not only had De Jong, but also Balal starting to close you down.
Yeah, I was watching the F3 all the time, and the gap was smaller and smaller, and yeah, I was really under pressure. Yeah.
And, of course, making a full season here in ISOWC competition in that number 13 car, how important is it to get yourself a good finish on a road course in a discipline that you are generally stronger as we kick off 4 road courses in a row?
Yeah, it was very important because I think on oval tracks I have so much to learn, and I can't calculate with a good result there, so I have to make points here on road courses. And yeah, I noticed already yesterday in the SOF race that Sebring suited me very well. I had a great race yesterday, awesome race today. It's, yeah, as I said, it's unbelievable.
And out of Long Beach and Barber and Indy, the next 3 road courses we're going to, which one of those 3 are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I think Long Beach, to be honest, it will be the toughest race for sure because there is a 0 mistake tolerance because the walls are quite close, and but I'm looking forward to this track specifically because I really like it.
Well, congratulations to you. 4th place in this race. Robert Groscher in that number 13 car. A couple more drivers I want to talk to before we go off there, and we will start with Tim Miller. And top 10 finish for you. You're going to have to be happy with that in that number 91 car today.
Boy, am I ever, Will. It was fuel saving the whole way.
Now, that number 91 car is not always the fastest, but it's always one of the most consistent cars that we had. And just having a look, you're actually the only driver that I'm aware of who's able to do a one-stop strategy. Just how difficult was it to get that extra fuel out of the car?
Well, once I got past halfway by 1 lap, as long as I was lapped by one of the guys up front, I was going to be fine. I had a half lap left when I finished.
Wow, that is close. And of course, you are kind of used to racing the variety of disciplines and variety of races here in the IndyCar, but Sebring's always been a kind of good track to you.
Yeah, most of the time, 16th Street, I had a problem early on with Terry. I ran into him last year sometime, but no, it's pretty good. It's flat.
And then, of course, 3 road courses coming up again to continue for the first time ever in ISOWC series history. 4 road courses in a row. Long Beach, and then Barber, and then Indianapolis. Which one of those are you going to be looking forward to?
Barber for sure. For some reason, I like Barber. I went there last year. I just enjoy it very much.
Well done to you, Tim. Like a top 10 finish in that number 91 car. Sterling result by you today. Finally, we're going to have a quick chat with Margin Nickel-Kirken. Margin, solid race, not necessarily what you would have wanted though. You had some damage early on. That really did affect your overall chance of getting a top 10 finish.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I put myself in that position by not having a good qualifying run. Dave accidentally, I can definitely see it was an accident, hit my rear wing in the opening stages. And the rear wing, I think, doesn't get fixed, so I was struggling with the setup throughout the race. But to be honest, I am quite happy because I hadn't actually thought I would finish this high after that hit. So I can be happy with it.
You finished the race, which of course is always a bonus. To finish first you have to finish, of course. However, not necessarily the result you would have wanted. How difficult was that car to drive with the damage that you had to your rear wing, but also that left-hand side pod on that McDonald's McCafe car?
Yeah, the setup just was completely borked after that. After the incidents, it was a handful throughout the run, no doubt about that.
And I know you're one of the few drivers that's actually run a long race at Long Beach, which is coming up in 2 weeks' time. So you've got a little bit of an advantage there. Just how difficult is it to get a race done at Long Beach when there is absolutely no room for error? Of course, especially like hairpin.
Definitely, it's a hard call to see who would finish it. But if you keep the concentration, it can be done. But that's key. Keep concentrating every lap. That's it.
Well, again, out of those next 3 road courses, is that the one that you're looking forward to, or is it Barber or Indy that's going to take your preference a little bit more?
Nah, it's definitely Long Beach. It's such a great challenge, especially with a good-sized field. It is awesome to race.
Well, we'll talk to you, hopefully, in a couple of weeks' time at Long Beach. Scott, I'm going to come back to you. Final thoughts of this race. Been a crazy, long, hard, arduous race for these drivers. Yes, it's been high attrition, but at the same time, what we've proven here today is you can't put a foot wrong in these Lara IOL 09s.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly not on a circuit like Sebring. Of course, if they're going forward to a circuit like Long Beach, where it's obviously the street and the concrete walls, margin for error there is so fine. And of course, circuits like Barber, of course, bit more margin for error because, of course, there's quite a few large grass runoffs, and of course the huge spider that dominates the circuit as a standing ornament. But also you've got, of course, Indianapolis with its long banking. It's very flat surface as well for the road course. So, I mean, there's an intriguing mixture of courses coming up. But I mean, in terms of today's performance, we've said it before, we'll say it again. Michael Dinkel did nothing but just dominate today, of course, across every single session, and he really did just crush the hopes of anyone looking to try and challenge him. I mean, there were one or two drivers who did get close to his times in practice, but I mean, he simply blew them into the water with qualifying and did exactly the same in the race. I mean, the rate he was able to not only be quick but consistently quick was just incredible, and I'm really looking forward to see how he'll get on moving forward into the rest of the championship. Of course, with 3 road courses coming up, it certainly means we'll get a lot of decent overtake racing going forwards before we start to get back onto the ovals. But yeah, congratulations to the top 3, and fingers crossed more is the same next time out in Barwood Motorsports Park.
Yeah, we won't see you at Long Beach, because if you want to broadcast a race at Long Beach in the state it's in at the moment, you must be a donkey on acid taking some form of cocaine. However, we'll be back on the 20th of April as part of our iRacing RaceSpotTV doubleheader, when we bring you both the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series and ISOWC action on the same day, here exclusively live on Glacier TV. Comment of the day goes to Chad Peterson, because he's a great guy and he has great friends. But it is time now for us to say goodbye. It has been an absolutely dominant performance here today by Michael Dinkel in that number 10 machine, as he took victory by 31.7 seconds over Brown and Trano. Broken Aero Racing had a decent performance with P2 and P3 on the podium, but Robert Grosser, a great race by him, and Michel De Jong as they rounded out the top 5. In 2 weeks' time, ISOWC competition heads over to Long Beach, and we'll be back on the 26th of April for the 4th round of the championship, the ISOWC Indy Grand Prix of Alabama. It'll be exclusively live here on RaceSpotTV. This has been a RaceSpotTV presentation of the ISOWC IndyCar Series, brought to you by iRaceForLife.org, official presenting partner of the ISOWC IndyCar Series, and $5 going to the winner's charity of choice from each and every round of the championship. Also brought to you in part by And Warner Designs, official graphics partner of the ISOWC IndyCar Series, and also by iRacing.com. If you're a new member, head over to iRacing.com right now to get yourself your first month's membership for just $5 and 50% off a 3-month, 1-year or 2-year membership. And finally, brought to you by The Will and Dave Show. It is Fridays, 4 PM Eastern, live and exclusive on Glacier TV. The most fun you can have with your pants on. The Will and Dave Show, every Friday, exclusively on Glacier TV. For myself, Will Vincent, from Scott Woodward, from Randy Shenworth and Hugo Louise, we'll talk to you all in 4 weeks' time. What a victory today by Michael Dinkel. We'll see you all next time.